Welcome back to another episode of Cobra Kai Companion. I'm Peter. It's the holidays. It is the holidays. We're in the middle of it. And joining me on the other side of the monitor, he's bright and shiny and looking like he's walking with some pep in his step. It's Mr. Watch Party. How you doing, sir?
Hey, we're getting past the holidays now, so
Yeah, we
it'll
sure
be the New
are.
Year's soon, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, the weird intro there. I guess if you're on X and social media, if you know, you know. I'll leave it at that. Not my news to share, but
Oh,
yeah. How you been, sir?
um, I've been, well, with the community, you could say I've been engaged. That's,
Yeah,
you could
Wait,
say.
I would say that. I would say that. That's good. That's pretty good.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, I got engaged Christmas Eve. And thank you for everyone who gave well wishes on the various social media platforms. It was fun, exciting, and magical. And, together we look forward to showing no mercy as a married couple. So,
yeah, absolutely. It's great. I've seen a picture. She's also in 4K, flat screen. You guys are a great pairing. Um,
yeah.
but hopefully everyone had a great, month and a half or so since part two's been out. We'll go over some updates as of late, but I think we were at least for me. I don't want to speak for you. I was being a little ambitious with December, but then I every year it happens. I get overwhelmed with work, so I don't know what I was thinking that we were going to be able to knock out at least a couple of episode reviews, but uh
We had hoped, but it's just the schedules were never aligning and it
they
was just
really weren't. We
tough.
must
Yeah.
have had maybe we probably scheduled like one or two and then had to keep postponing. But
Yeah.
you guys kind of know how it is if you guys have
Mhm.
been following us for for some time. Every December it just gets very difficult. And um but I think November I must have posted like 12 episodes. That's the interviews, the
Yeah, there's
part
tons of
two
stuff out
stuff,
there for
and
two.
and we were yeah, and we were finishing up our episode reviews for part one.
Mhm.
So all of that included. I was one day I was just looking at the YouTube channel and I was like, holy shit, we put out that many episodes, but that was to catch up and all of that. So let's see, the biggest news as of date, we finally got an official announcement for the release
Mhm.
date of part three. Most of you probably know it by now. It's
Mhm.
February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. So cool. We finally got a release date.
Yes. An
Exciting stuff.
official release date. It's basically was unofficially that date for months, but there you go.
Right. Yeah. And that was we had did they well, I think we were all kind of assuming that it was going to be on Christmas, right? Because of the little
The
promo that
football
Ralph
game,
and
yeah.
Billy. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
right.
and then John Hurwitz had mentioned on X that sometime this month we would be getting something, and
Mhm,
so
mhm.
me included, but a lot of people did think on Christmas Day
Christmas,
we
yeah.
would find something out, but it was on the eve that I
Mhm.
woke up to the news. Or to whatever it was that was released, and then they also released what, four images, or no, six images I think it was of the part three.
Mhm.
We're probably not. No, we're not going to get into those now. Uh, quite frankly, just I forgot about them till this very moment. Actually, is why, and we've already been prepping to kind of get this done, so that way you guys have something for
Mhm.
2024.
Right.
Yeah, and
2025.
yeah, and then well, this is going to come out still, before the new year, so.
Oh, yes. Okay, before that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's what I was hoping for.
Right.
It's because man, we've been trying so hard to get this episode out. And then I only have a few of the John Hurwitz also did a Q&A. What did I say it was? The 22nd, December 22nd. So just a
Mhm.
couple days before we got the release date and pictures. There was a just a few that I thought was kind of worth sharing. Watch party. Can you think of anything that piqued your interest that you may have gone over?
I don't even remember at this
Yeah,
point because I had been kind of preoccupied, so I haven't been
right. You
as
should,
much.
we
Yeah.
had we were playing catch up, before we started, and when you were telling me, about something, and then you said the 23rd, I had to
Mhm,
look on my the date, like today's date on my
mhm.
laptop, and I was just like, oh my God, we're still in December. Like I lost track of, when and where I am. It's been crazy. I feel like I haven't really had a chance to breathe yet. Um,
Mhm.
all right, so I will jump into the few that I had shared. I thought it was going to be a lot easier to find here. Okay. So the trailer, that's the one where he says you'll get a tiny taste soon, but wouldn't expect the trailer until much closer to release, which again, we found out is February 13th.
Mhm.
Um, Somebody had asked at Frika Beth FV, Sam Gell haven't had much of a spotlight yet. Can we expect more of them in part three? And he says Sam Miguel and Keenry are both featured in part three. The question is whether either of them are Endgame. Now, how do you translate that?
I think John's stirring the pot a little bit.
Okay,
We know that there'll always be some relationship stuff, and especially as we're going into the end, we wrap stuff up. Um, I would guess they're probably in game. I think uh Tori and Robbie will obviously have way more to work out.
I would
um,
say, yeah,
yeah, and then the only thing issue now coming to Sam and Miguel is going to be what are they doing post high school and college? Like, where does
right,
the relationship go? So, we see the fracture in Dimitri and Hawk's relationship over college. So, but
right,
Sam and Miguel don't seem to be having any issues, and it's never implied they're going to the same school or anything like that. So, who knows?
right, right. Not yet.
Mhm.
Perhaps well, I would hope in the final
Mhm.
five episodes we'll find that out. You mentioned stirring the pot, and I don't believe it might have been part of this Q&A. Somebody had asked John something about either Kreese or Marty, and like I just remember the response saying something to the effect of like, "Oh, Marty, like it was greeted with an open mouth kiss," or like something like I just remembered like
Oh,
open mouth
right, right,
kiss.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking like, did they even get John's phone? Like that does
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if
I
I've ever
do
read
remember
a
that one.
response like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see like which of this might have been like a bit of a stretch here.
Mhm.
The one of the other ones here, at Midport, will any of the characters have a spin-off in the future? He responds, I hope so. Actively working on it.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that when I shared this one specifically, I underlined actively. So that's important there too,
Hmm.
to kind of keep an eye and ear out for. And this one I feel goes without saying, but it was something that excited me, and that's why I shared it. At Short King Robbie. Now, is this person calling Robbie short? I take offense to this.
I don't know.
Uh, but this person asks or requests, explain part three in one word, and John says best.
Oh, there you go.
So it could be you're the best, the episode's the best.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
sure.
you're right. Hmm.
Is he saying part three is the best, or is he saying a word from a song lyric or a
Oh,
song title? Who knows? Who knows? Only John knows. Okay, so that's it for that. Is anything else you could think of in terms of updates? I don't think anything else really
no. Yeah, we
been
got the
announced
the
or
release date, the Q&A, pictures and stuff. So that's it.
okay. Anything you remember worth mentioning about the Karate Kid Legends, or maybe that Karate Kid Legends?
Oh, well, yeah, that trailer dropped, teaser or whatever. So we got our first look, I guess I would say of Daniel in the movie and Miyake's house and everything. So that's um I mean
Just
that yeah, yeah.
yeah, a few words of that. What did you think? Maybe a sentence or two.
What did I think? I think it looks like what I thought it was. I think that this teaser is a little bit misleading because I think Daniel's probably in it very little. Like maybe only he's like sort of like the act three thing. And will probably come in because we know this. We know Ralph was shooting season six, so he wasn't like available for a lot of the shoot. So I think someone said he shot for 1 week on that movie. So I feel like most of the Daniel stuff is probably already in the trailer by some point. Um, but that I'm not a fan of the movie. I just was like um more committed and all in with John, Josh, and Hayden's vision of the Miyagi verse. And I feel like some other people are just coming in and, you know, putting their foot down and, doing it so they can make money. But that's that.
Yeah. I almost feel the director, I how do you know how to pronounce his
It's
last name?
well,
Like Entwistle?
it's yeah, and whistle.
Yeah, it's like in the couple interviews that he's put out, it almost sounds like he's also not really confirming, but I feel like in his own words, he's almost saying like, yeah, we're kind of like a different branch, right? And that's also a line that you hear Daniel say, like, one, oh
Yeah,
crap, what was
yeah.
the line? Something two branches, one tree, two branch.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's the whole thing. I put out a little video because I didn't think that was particularly a good line, but
Oh,
yeah, two
I don't
branches, one tree or something,
wonder,
which
yeah,
is
I don't
and
remember
they
if I
say it like it's this great mythical, like wow, you have the wisdom of the ancients. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
it's two
I
arms, one
yeah.
person. That makes more sense.
Well, for what it's worth, I liked it. I
Mhm,
spoke with some friends that are not in the fandom,
mhm.
and I was like, "Hey, what you guys think?" And one guy he's like looks dope, man. I'll go watch it. And another one is like, dude, I had one guy actually text me unsolicited. He was just like, "Hey, saw that new trailer? Looks dope. Dope AF," is actually what he used. I'm like, cool. So a
There you
friend of mine
go.
just said, you
The
know.
trailer did its job. Then
Yeah, it's got some people excited, and a lot of my friends are, fans of. I feel they would more, they would go see it because more so is Jackie Chan, not so much because like they like the Karate Kid and like Ralph Macchio. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's just like a different
Yeah, Jackie
crowd. They're
Chan's
just
the
like,
bigger star.
yeah. So they're
Oh
just like,
boy,
oh,
I'm gonna
yeah,
get
I'm
flack for that, but
But yeah, well, maybe you are what falls over in part three.
oh yeah.
So tying back to Cobra Kai. So, yeah, I'll check. I mentioned it before. I'll check it out, and then I'll let for those that do not go see it, or at least wants to hear somebody's opinion about it. I'll give it then. Um,
Mhm.
all right, so let's get into this episode. This is episode 6 of season 6. Oh man, we were just practicing this.
Benvinguts.
Benvinguts, Benvinguts a
Ben,
Barcelona,
yeah.
episode 606. This is directed by Joel Novoa and written by the writing duo Joe Piorelli and also Luan Thomas.
Mhm.
Um, so first thoughts, what did you think about this episode? Or
Um,
also as like the first episode of this second batch, which John has described each of these drops as their own mini seasons.
right. And that's why each, first episode does like what a first episode does, starts setting up the storylines, we're going to be following or something. And that's definitely what's happening here. We get a lot of the setup for the Sakai Tekai. We're wrapping up or playing off everything that happened in the previous episode. So that's a big thrust of this. Now we're dealing with everything from Tori's mom dying and then showing up with Cobra Kai. And then of course Kreese showing back up. So I think this episode's, starting, dealing with the fallout from the previous episode while kicking off the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. You and Gunther even kind of opens up, talking about the Sekai Tekai, and
Mhm.
at one point he's talking about. Let's see if I can pull up the quote here. I'm not I'm not even sure if it's actually in this episode. I could be wrong, but it's something to the effect of like this is where you know you're gonna make friends or rivals, you know, something like that. Like he kind of
Yeah, right,
ends.
right, yeah.
Is
Mhm,
it this one? Okay, so yeah, you're gonna see a lot of like the moving parts. Like it's pretty well crafted. There's always something going on, whether it's in the background or whatever. There's always like some sort of story being told.
mhm, mhm,
As an aside to like the story that we're like kind of consuming at the very moment, right? Like that's why I often look at the extras or just watching what else is going on in the background because you watch part two all the way through, then you go back and rewatch it, then you start seeing like, oh shit, Axel was looking in a
mhm,
certain direction in this, while they're taking photos. It's got to be this person, with like the future knowledge that we have, and so you see a
mhm,
lot of the setups and they're all there if you're looking for it. So I thought it
mhm,
was really well done. The writing, it's crazy because like you have to remember like where is everybody in their headspace current time and there's things that I forget and then like in subsequent viewings like like I start thinking about something else. I'm like, wait, do we know this about that person? And well, we'll get there, but
mhm.
it's kind of wild. Like I feel part two is uncomfortable in a good way. Like all we know is kind of our core characters. This is a new locale. This is a new tournament. These are new dojos, new villains.
Yeah.
And all this. There's nothing familiar, like about part two. And so like this episode six. And I'll have you answer in a moment, but I remember at the end of my binge of part two, I was just like, holy shit, this I can see note taking being a mother. Like it's
Yeah.
I've never had such difficult times taking the notes. But it's just yeah, so much is going on, and I feel there's just a ton to look at, and I'm gonna continue missing things. But what overall, like part two, did you in terms of like breaking it down, analyzing, review, or whatever, what we've been doing, did you have any like forethought that like, oh, this might be a little bit tougher than before, or you see some sort of challenge or kind of the same?
Tougher in what sense?
Just
What
kind of like
the
in preparation for reviewing,
in
I was just like, oh,
preparation?
yeah,
Um,
I kind of felt like early on, I was like, man, this is gonna be a lot tougher, like a little bit more challenging than what I'm used to, right? Because I
I remember
again,
saying, well, I do like remember thinking, and as we get to it, that the final brawl,
yeah.
there's a lot going on, just in getting each thread and such for everything that's happening through that. But yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. I'm just like, oh
yeah,
man, there's just, and
yeah.
then if I want to talk about one thing, I also have to remember there's this other thing kind of lurking in the
Mhm.
background. So that's what I mean, like uncomfortable, because I'm just like, oh man, I'm like it's almost like covering like a new show, but at the very least, I know the core characters. But yeah. Anyway, okay, so I think from there we can just go ahead and jump in to Amy's synopsis.
Right.
He says, everyone is in Barcelona and nobody is happy. Daniel and Johnny are still fighting. Dimitri and Hawk are bickering about everything, and everybody is shook by Tori's sudden appearance as a Cobra Kai captain. As Gunther explains the basic concept of the Sekai Tekai, everyone glares and smirks and stares and makes faces or makes sad face. The senseis head to a mixer while the kids have a field trip to the aquarium. Neither works out ideally for Miyagi-Do, but the senseis fare slightly better. Johnny is ready to throw down with Sensei Wolf over buffet steak, and Kreese is right there to push buttons. But Daniel is able to get a potential lead on Mr. Miyagi's connection to the Sekai Tekai. So all is not lost. Still, Chosen ultimately gets them kicked out of the event after showing up in the middle of a drunken bender and dramatically assaulting table settings. Over at the aquarium, Miyagi-Do is sizing up the competition, and Cobra Kai is holding court in a classic 80s high school bully way. Uh, classic 80s high school bully way. Tori continues to be miserable and has brief conversations with most of her former teammates, but nothing makes anyone feel any better. Quan sees an easy mark and manages to bait Robbie into a competition where he ultimately loses their hotel room to him in a bet they were clearly never going to win. Back at the hotel, Robbie continues to lose as Sam reveals to the team that he knew about Kreese approaching Tori weeks earlier. Everybody is unfocused and questioning each other's judgment, and nobody sleeps well that night, except Quan, who has a big room all to himself and is sleeping like a happy baby. Um, Day one of the competition shows us a Miyagi-Do team with no focus and a Cobra Kai team that lacks unity, but the latter is still the stronger team and beats them easily. But neither are a match for the Iron Dragons, led by Sensei Wolf, noted steak thief. There you go. Thank you, Amy, for that.
Yeah.
After such a crazy month and a half, that put a really big smile on my face. So thank you,
It
Amy,
actually did,
for that.
yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe one of her best yet,
Yeah,
actually.
I
Have to
would say
say,
so.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just really nailed all of that.
Hmm.
So we start off at the Sekai Tekai. Gunther is welcoming competitors, sensei, sponsors, and esteemed guests to Barcelona. Miyagi-Do, Cobra Kai exchange looks, and Gunther. See, Amy already said all this stuff. This is like my
She
first
took the
sentence,
words
or
right
yeah,
from you.
yeah,
Yeah.
she really did. Um, Calls for the team captains to put on their headbands. So, what did you think of this opening sequence? I guess I haven't read my notes in a while. I'm reading that and go, why did I just write all that? That just, you know what?
I mean, it's like what I said even then about the episode all. This is the scene that we're setting it all up, right? So we get Robbie, you see right away, he's out of it. He's staring over at Tori, what's going on? So we know Robbie's not in the good mental space, right? You
Right,
mentioned
right.
headspace, right? So we boom right off the top. Sam seems to be taking it well, right? Like Sam is picking up Robbie's out of it. But she's taking it well. We know Daniel's not there. So because when they put on the headbands, he's getting his flashbacks to Miyagi's bloody one, right? So
Sure.
now we know Daniel is like da, 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 like he's not, in there. Um Tori's probably not completely focused herself. And then everyone else is, ready to kick butt. But so
Uh,
yeah, but
um,
but we're getting a lot of these storylines are all set up within the first 2 minutes.
Yes, we see Miguel at one point. He is like watching Robbie put on the headband, kind of gives him this like little
Yeah,
glare,
yeah.
a little bit. I do think it's funny you were mentioning how like Sam. I kind of forget exactly the words you used. What did you say, Sam? Like she didn't seem she seemed happy, or
Or she's not as like she's taking it better than Robbie,
okay, okay,
and she's
yeah,
picking up that Robbie's the one who's
right.
losing it.
So after Miguel gives like the little glare, kind of, I believe it's like towards the end of the sequence, like Miguel looks like he's happy to be there, you know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's just kind of funny to kind of see like all the different facial reactions, just kind of like Amy pointed out, like some are
Hmm.
sad and some are just glaring, all of that. We do learn from Gunther that they will be going through several team events to narrow it down to the final four, which at that point they will tally up the points and see who the winner is. Um, I was just thinking about this, and like Gunther must have visited several different dojos like all around the world to get it down to the 16, right? Because remember that they had to add Miyagi-Do too. So I wonder, was there a number they had to, oh, they must have. I'm trying to think if there was any like preliminaries before this. Did they? I don't know. They must have made some sort of decision at another
It's
point.
yeah, they make some decision, dojos basically apply maybe, putting on video and demonstrations of your dojo. And then from that, they decide which dojos to go, investigate, interview personally
Yeah.
and look at. And then from there, then they offer invitations.
And so the weird thing is, and my apologies because I don't remember if we talked about it in episode 5, but who is still on the Cobra Kai team from when Gunther was observing them? It's just Tori, right?
Tori. Yeah,
you
otherwise
know.
it's a completely whole dojo.
And
Yeah,
since they came, since they came with
this is
Tori.
the part like I was asking Hayden, and he said don't think about it too hard. Like
That's why my head was just hurting a moment ago.
yeah,
All right, so we'll just
because
skip it.
Kim Daun was a 50% owner. For Terry Silver gave her half the dojo, so and after he's gone, like so she controls the dojo, and she just changed the JoJo location to Korea,
Yeah, yeah,
and they didn't care because it was her dojo. They didn't think about it too hard. Like,
yeah.
this
You're
isn't
probably
the
right.
school we admitted. You showed us all this high tech technology, but in Korea, they're carrying logs back. Whatever,
Yeah, yeah. They probably just saw the logo and that it's a little bit altered. They're like, oh, well, they just changed their colors and
whatever.
thought
Yeah.
nothing of it. Yeah, it's fine.
Why do they have Korean flags? I thought they were in Los Angeles. Like,
Yeah, who's the kid who can kick? I don't remember him
yeah,
last time.
yeah.
Um, all right, so we see, yeah, you mentioned Daniel's brief flashback to the bloody headband.
Hmm.
Sam asks Robbie if he knew, to which he says he did not, and he swears that he didn't know that Tori was going to be on Cobra Kai
Right.
team.
Hmm.
On the agenda is a field trip for the competitors, and for the sensei is a cocktail mixer. Now,
That
Amy just
Daniel liked that cocktail mixer. It probably,
it's
I'm
so
sure.
I've never heard it called that this event. So a mixer is another kind of like congregation of people.
Oh, you've never heard that term, like
No,
cocktail mixer?
uh-uh.
Oh yeah, like mixer. I feel like
I picked up on it obviously through the context, but
I
I've
guess
never heard
it's
that.
this sort of thing. Where would you use that term? Okay, mm, like usually, like okay, if like there's a program in maybe I was gonna say college like level or something
Hmm.
where you have like a mixer. It's just for people to get to know each other.
Wow.
Um, I remember once there was like a mixer. It was the incoming MBA students at the university I was going to.
Uh,
I wasn't there, like I was dropping something off, but like they were all there, so it was like the new, and yeah, so it was like a mixer, and they for the MBA students. You could do it for a business too, like it's like, um, if like a business is whatever doing something, so so it's like a drink. It's just a way, like, you can call it a party essentially, but
yeah.
it's more of just or meet and greet, like to get to
Me.
know
Okay.
people, right?
Okay. Okay.
But with cocktails.
Got it. Okay. Uh, the more you know. So Miyagi-Do arrive at the hotel and Daniel instructs everyone to go get their room keys and to settle in. Johnny tells the kids that they need to take care of the driver and uses this moment to confront Daniel and blames him for Tori being there.
Yeah.
This was actually pretty heated.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
finger
it
pointing.
really is. And I wrote in my notes, this is not a good way to start the tournament.
Yeah.
This is the Johnny Daniel rivalry that the fans were hoping was past. And I
And
think
this
the
is like
worst part about this is they specifically blame each other for Tori.
yeah, right.
That's what I think is just so tough here
Yeah, and man, it's even worse than what we saw in episode 5.
in
The
a way.
stopping
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
fight. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then so they kind of got past that, and then we have the whole. Um, Now I'm mixing up the episodes with what Johnny says, but so if
Well,
we
what Johnny says here, we're next to because he's like we're here
there
together,
we
and then
go.
Johnny's like
Yeah,
we're next to
no,
each other,
we're
not
next to each
together.
other. Right,
Yeah,
right, and that so this is not the same. I guess it's similar to when Johnny tells Daniel in episode 605, where like he's gonna do that for the kids, but after
yeah,
they're all done, they're done, kind of
yeah.
thing.
This is basically picking up or reminding from that,
Yeah.
moment.
Um, let's see. Daniel deflects a little and says, "No wonder why she went back to Kreese." And Johnny says, to mark his words, that Kreese is a dead man. Daniel
Mm,
reminds Johnny that Cobra Kai is just one dojo out of 16, but Johnny is
Mhm.
adamant in that he will take Kreese out of commission. A little callback to the Karate Kid movie.
Mhm.
They conclude this back and forth with Daniel reminding him that he is there as a Miyagi-Do sensei and that they're in this together. And you mentioned it. Johnny tells him that they're next to each other, not together. We cut to inside the hotel, and the boys, the Miyagi-Do boys, are trying to figure out who is going to room with who. Hawk wants to go with Miguel because apparently Dimitri farts in his sleep. Um, and they kind of go back and forth on
You
that.
know, just to cut you off in this whole
Yeah.
fart in the speech, how does
Uh,
Dimitri not bring up the bedwetting?
I feel like
Again,
you've mentioned that too. Was that a video or was that on social media?
I
I
can't
feel like
remember. Maybe it was even in a
yeah,
live stream. Yeah,
that could be.
I don't
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
you're right. That's a good point too. And I
maybe
feel
Dimitri, who has grown as a character, has, even though he's upset here, he's like, well, I'm never gonna go there again. He made a solemn promise he wouldn't bring it up again. And so there it is, and he stuck by that promise.
right.
I
Um,
mean, if only he made the same promise about MIT, but no, well,
yeah, it maybe he doesn't bring that up because he just feels attacked about the whole farting thing and he's just
yeah,
beside himself.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's
instead of instead of the dick measuring, it's just like how are you what I don't fart, maybe that's just what it is because like that's what they're talking about. They're not
yeah.
exchanging jabs,
Hmm.
which could have been an opportune moment for that. And correct me if I'm wrong, was that oh gosh, episode 209. I'm blanking on the title.
209, yeah, that's.
Yeah, and
Oh
that
no,
was
it's the octopus. It's the
Popo, right?
pulpa. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Popo, yeah, which was written by Michael Jonathan Smith, and maybe that's why, because he wasn't part of part two, and that was his episode. I don't know, because he wrote that,
Maybe,
right? So,
but
maybe he could.
Joe and Luan
Bit
were
of a
there. So
stretch, but yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they were there, but maybe it's just one of those things. It's just like since they
Mhm.
didn't write that episode with that detail,
Yeah.
maybe it was forgotten. Um, let's see. Devin tells Sam that she's glad that they're not the boys, and this
Hmm.
is when we find out Sam is clearly bothered that Tori is back with Cobra Kai. Obviously, enter
Hmm.
Team Korea, Korea's Cobra Kai, and I just love how Quan acts if he's
Hmm.
impressed at first, and
I agree. I actually have written here Kwan's my favorite in this scene.
yeah, and I love the like the facial reactions Brandon's giving,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
if you guys heard my interview with Brandon, like I told him how you know
Hmm.
Juan's reaction is like, "Ooh, I got a rise out of them, or I got a reaction," and so Brandon also talked about how when he delivered that line, it was like kind of part Brandon, part Quan, where he's like,
Hmm.
"Whoa!" Like he really was kind of like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, that's Miyagi-Do, like real for real." And and then like it's the character of
Mhm.
Quan. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
you guys don't look like much, and so I love that. It's just it's a great entrance. I remember being giddy, on my very first watch. I'm like, hell yeah, this is the first time they basically see each other face to face rather than across the mat, and
Right.
they're in like the black apparel and looking militaristic. It was just a really 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 great entrance to the new baddies. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, backhanded compliment, not looking like much. We cut to Daniel talking to Amanda on FaceTime. He's updating her on things, and Johnny walks out of the shower wearing a bathrobe. I do wonder why the
Which is
water.
Amanda's favorite
No,
show, by
it
the
is her
way.
favorite show.
And
Yes,
I
yes,
think
it is.
many of the fans too.
Yeah, well, often people say she is like the audience, right? And so when she says
Yes,
that, like
yes.
I didn't roll my eyes, but I kind of like smirked at the line when I first
Hmm.
heard it. I was just
Hmm.
like, you guys are being a little cute because that's how we feel, right? Like this is our favorite show. This is what we wanted to see. We joked
Maybe for
about,
different reasons.
yeah, sure, sure.
I
Um,
mean, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to see Johnny out in the bathroom, but
you've seen those pictures of him in
oh
was it
yeah,
shooter
yeah,
anyway, but
yeah.
for me I was thinking, oh crap, I lost my train of thought. Uh, Amanda. Dang it. I kind of forget. Anyway, okay, so Johnny's in a bathrobe. I wonder, like, this hotel seems to be like a nice hotel. I was wondering, like, did they
Mhm.
write in that the water pressure is like weak so he can come out in a bathrobe? Kind of put them in the situation where Amanda,
A little
you know,
bit. Water pressure leak is a classic Karate Kid thing, though, going back to the original movie,
okay. Oh,
like
okay. Yeah,
isn't
that
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. That kind of went
yeah.
over my head on that, but but I was thinking like, we do often
Easter
see,
egg.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it is. Um, and then there's a little discussion about I didn't know those mini fridges had sensors on them. Is that
Oh yeah, at nice hotels or certain hotels, yeah.
well,
At
I
least
guess
that's
that's
what
why I
they
don't know.
say. I don't actually know, but that's what they say. Like there's yeah, little sensors on them, and like even if you move it, you know, it'll trigger the sensor, and the next thing you know, you're charged like $8 for a Snickers bar or something.
I guess that kind of makes sense to kind of like cut down time on checking to see if like people have taken things because like people could take like a little thing of vodka and they just refill it with water, stick it back in, right? And I feel, you'd have people spending so
Oh,
much
I never even
time
thought of
check.
that.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
Because I think like sometimes there's even notes on it if you read it. Um, because they'll have like a candy bar or something, and like, but like you can't even let's say you take that Snickers bar and then later you put a new one there, like you go to get one at the store and put it back. Like you still get to pay for it.
yeah.
Um,
I would just for the safety of the next, person that has that room, because we don't know. And maybe the one you replaced it with is bad and you didn't know it, You went down to a sketchy store and got
it's
one that was
true.
like,
It's true. It's
$2
true.
instead of $8 or euros in this case.
I don't
Um,
even like. I would prefer it not be in the room at all, but whatever.
I
Now
know
we're
if you're in
going on to.
Barcelona, yeah, tangents. You would definitely be out, riding a scooter on the beach or something.
Mhm, mhm,
Anyway, hey, Johnny tries calling the front desk. We hear him conversing in Spanish pretty well. And let's see, we already talked about Amanda's new fair show here. We cut to Sensei Kim and Kreese. They stop by Tori's room to let her know that the bus is there to pick them up for the field trip. Um,
mhm.
Now, do you think Kim is going like a little hard on Tori to kind of set her up for this arc? Again, like future knowledge, right? We're not trying to remain spoiler free or anything like that. It's
Well,
been
yeah.
out long enough.
Um, I think this is a continuation from last season. Kim and Tori didn't get along, so we're setting these two up. They didn't end in a good spot, and now they're back on the same team, which is kind of like we're kind of addressing that plot point. Um, is how I view it mostly.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I really love Alicia's uh pronunciation of like boyfriend, like how she says dad or like that girl, like I can't do it. I cannot do it justice because it's just the way she says it. And I don't know if it's the thing where she's Australian and doing like, an Oxford accent, or I say Oxford accent, but she mentioned how like in her mind, Kim Jong-un went to Oxford. So I don't know if there's anyway, so I don't know if it's just that. But it's just like the way she says it, it just for some reason it just makes me like it just feels such like a villain, like just the way she says it.
Yeah.
You can only hear a villain pronounce it that way, and the way it's delivered, I really like it. um okay, so Tori has a moment alone with Kreese, and
Yeah.
he basically tells her just to have to play nice. And and again, I'm talking about like the way things are being delivered here. The way Martin Cove delivers nice, in his movement. Do you know what I'm talking about when he says like, gotta play nice? Like it
To
pains
get
him to
along
say.
with the
Yeah,
teammates. Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't even want to say that, but he says it, and it's just so I'm like, but this guy is so bad. He can't say the word nice, and it just makes him feel all ooey. Like just watch his performance on
Mhm.
that. I find it comical. He's the
I
shoulder
think
shrug.
Yeah. I do think I like Kreese here in the sense that, Kreese knows what she's thinking about. And he's talking to her and he says, I know you will make your mother proud. And I think it's just telling that like Kreese is the only one who said that. Like he's the only one that understands what Tori's thinking and feeling. Johnny and Daniel are arguing and going through all this, but like why didn't Johnny and Daniel say things like that to her? Because that's what she wants. And Kreese is the only one that knows that. And I mean, ultimately, this is why Tori's here.
Yeah. Point. That's a very great point. Again,
Mhm,
observation. Um, let's see. Just to kind of add to what you were saying, like, yeah, I think it's just they're more. She's not their priority. It's sad to
mhm,
say it, like jumping ahead a little bit. She talks about how she knows that she wasn't going to get a fair shake of Miyagi-Do. There's just too many other people. There's too many other dynamics within that dojo for her um to serve any sort of purpose. And
mhm,
so yeah. Uh, let's see here. We cut to Daniel. No, let's see, charity event. Oh, okay. So we cut to Johnny and Daniel walking to the cocktail mixer. Daniel's
mhm,
basically telling him to be on his best behavior. And Johnny brings up Daniel shoving Silver at the charity event, to which Daniel asks, like, how does he know that? And I love like Billy's like face acting. It's kind of like, ooh, yeah, yes, I know that detail. He's looking forward, and he's not like even like addressing Daniel at this point.
mhm,
But
yeah.
my guess is he probably heard it from Amanda, right? Like after the shoving, that was episode 504, if I'm not mistaken, right? The charity event, downward
Right.
spiral, I
Yeah.
think it is.
Downward
Yeah.
spiral. Yeah. Mhm.
So 505 extreme measures. Oh, guys, it's been such a long time. But that episode, that's where Daniel
Yeah.
gets his
Yeah.
butt whooped, and
That's
then we see,
true.
yeah, Johnny end up at the very end. So I can see, Amanda reaching out. Hey, can you come over? Something had just happened with Daniel. Oh, what happened? Like, well, this is what's been going on. We were at this charity event and Terry Silver and blah blah blah. No, Terry Silver kicked his ass, stomped on his neck, that whole deal.
Mhm.
Um, we get to inside. Daniel is speaking to some folks about Miyagi-Do and its history. Johnny is in line for some food and is waiting for some steak. There's only two pieces left, and the gentleman in front of him takes them both, and Johnny has some words for him. Um, this
I
one
will say, have
was
you ever
yeah,
been
go
in
ahead.
that situation? Like I have been in that situation many times.
Ish, yeah, like something similar to it. Not this very thing where
Yeah.
um well, I'm not talking to anybody about like, dude, you just took the last pieces. But yes, in this
Mhm.
instance where like I'm the next person and like literally the person in front of me took everything, I just
Mhm.
stand off to the side, or maybe I continue adding to my plate, and then I'll stand
Yeah.
off to the side to get that fresh next, piece or whatever.
Exactly. And yeah, that's true. More is coming, but
Yeah.
yeah, go on otherwise. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Um, Two pieces left. Daniel intervenes and de-escalate, reminding Johnny that he needs to be on his best behavior and that dude could be a sponsor. And the sequence ends with Sensei Kim and Kreese arriving. Now, I don't know if it's obligated for the senseis to go. Um, and
But they would it's a mixer, Peter.
yeah,
Uh
yeah, yeah. Okay,
no,
get to me.
it's about, meeting the sponsors or something. So
Yeah, but
it's like pitching
do they?
yourself to the money people.
But does Cobra Kai need sponsors?
Um
They just
well,
need to
now
be
that they've
there.
lost Terry Silver,
Yeah.
but
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
yeah.
Okay, good. They
But
don't have as much money. Okay,
yeah, so I would say so.
Priest probably has no money, so they're
No, no,
they're on the Kim's.
because yeah, the goal was always to take the art, worldwide. So definitely
Right.
they need.
We cut to the field trip.
Wait,
With
one more
yeah,
thing
yeah.
about Wolf. He takes the
Okay,
second steak, and someone pointed it out because he says, "Oh, it's for a friend," and it's like,
right.
"Oh, is that talking about Silver, Terry Silver?" But um, I
One
don't think Terry
piece.
Silver needs a steak from a cocktail mixer. Like,
Well,
you know,
not only that, but but if one is for a friend, like he's Wolf is gonna take one piece to Terry Silver, and he's just gonna be good with that piece. You know,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
other thing. Like, no, I think that was more of just like a smart ass response to Johnny.
Remark.
That's
Yeah, right.
every more, yeah, yeah. Um, but I do like his, what he adds to that is like, well, even if it wasn't, like, I'm entitled to like what I want. Like, it's the last two pieces, dude. I'm not gonna, like if I leave you one, are you
Yeah,
gonna thank me for that? Like,
right.
I guess we
Hmm.
can go there too. We cut to the field trip, which is at the aquarium, and they are taking a captain's group photo. We're introduced to Zara, kind of, who comments to Tori about the cute boys and picks up on that Tori possibly has dibs on Robbie. I think it's funny how the photographer tries to have like everyone say Barcelona as opposed to cheese. Um, so is there
Or
something
like
that
Sakai Takai. I don't know. I
okay?
yeah,
You just like the pronunciation of the words.
yeah.
Um, I we have a close up on Axel who has asked to smile, and I'm not alone, right, in thinking that he's looking at Sam.
Oh, was he?
Well,
Maybe you
that's
are
the
alone.
thing.
I just
Yeah,
thought of he's like a totally expressionless person.
yeah.
Um, you know,
Because the close up, he is not looking in the direction of the photographer until the photographer addresses him and asks him to smile. In different angles, he is looking, Patrick Lewis, who plays Axel, he is looking straight ahead, but in that specific close up, he is looking off to his right,
off
which would
right. You're
be in the
right. Yeah,
direction
I
of
see.
Sam.
Yeah.
So that's
Um,
kind of that's one of the things I was mentioning in terms of like the crafting of this episode and placing characters in different places and possibly setting things up. And I do feel that
I,
yeah, Axel, boom, right there looking at Sam. But it's a close-up, so you don't really see it.
you don't really know. I was trying to see if he was looking at Zara. I guess well, the
Kind of more in
way
front of them.
yeah, more, but with the spot Tori's in, he could have been looking at Tori because Zara was talking to Tori. So like,
True, yeah.
um, I mean, like if I'm just being honest, that makes more sense to me. Like he would be looking at the person his teammates talking to. Um,
Right.
but it
Yeah.
could be I think Sam's further off to the edge, but you're free to interpret however you want, or just sizing up competition, because Quan is next to Tori, so he could have been looking at him.
Oh,
Um,
he's like, that guy has awesome hair. Yeah, I wonder how
yes,
it's
exactly. How do you get the
I don't
anime
understand it.
hair?
My hair does not do that. I need to talk to this gentleman nicely and ask him how does that how he does that. And the secret, which we're gonna find out, is sleeping with your head propped up. We'll get there.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, Tori leaves before it's over, and there's a point she walks by Dimitri, who's very animated in the way he watches her exit. Like he like pivots his entire body, or I guess rather rotates his body, or twists his body, or something. But
Oh, you
if
know what? Yeah,
yeah,
it's you reminded. I even had this note and I forgot it. Back at the beginning when they were in the hotel, um, when they're saying if Robbie would be fine about Tori, and Dimitri has his one good line. He's like, "I wouldn't be fine."
oh,
Kind of like
right,
a little bit of honest and insightful. Like, hey,
yeah.
Robbie's going through stuff. This is going to be hard on him. So,
And I'm so mad I don't have this down as a note unless I just completely skipped over it. But um, after the confrontation with Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai down in the lobby there, as Cobra Kai is walking off, Quan makes Dimitri flinch.
all right, right. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And so if you listen to Brandon's interview, he talked about how he
Mm,
improvised that. And then
yeah.
with every take, he would switch up the timing to keep Gianni
A little off. Yeah.
really surprised. Exactly.
Mm,
Yeah. And so I just love that detail. And I remember seeing that for the first time. And the fact that it was Dimitri, it made it more funny because like
mhm,
I was not expecting that. I think going into part two and watching episode six, at that point, I'm familiar with an Axel, with a Azara. I know who, Robbie is the captain. Miguel is, wants to be captain. I know these things, but then for Quan to walk off and then make Dimitri flinch, like that was unexpected and even funnier. So
mhm.
I want to point that out. Um, okay, let's see. We go back to the mixer. No, we don't see Quan. Okay, so Dimitri watches Tori leave, and Brandon had mentioned a deleted scene, and he talks about how at one point Dimitri's like holding a flyer and Quan walks by and he slaps the flyer out of his hand to
All
add
right.
to like
Yeah.
all of these things that leads into like Quan first attack later on here in the Captain's War or whatever. So I do wonder if it's this moment because when Tori is walking by Dimitri, he's like looking through like some sort of like pamphlet or something like a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
thin,
He's
yeah.
holding a flyer
So
or
I wonder
something. Yeah.
if it was
Mhm.
that Quan was cut out of because we do see Robbie leave, but we don't see Quan leave.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
because Quan's like, there she goes again. It makes sense.
exactly.
Quan may be going after Tori too. So,
To kind of just not even catch up with her, but just to see what she's up
yeah.
to,
Right.
kind of
Mhm.
spy on her a little bit.
Mhm.
We go back to the mixer, and Daniel happens to meet a sponsor who specializes in equipment and apparel. He uses this moment to ask about the headband. There's a quick cut to Johnny, who is displaying some sick nunchuck skills. Um, and I was when I saw it, I was like, why am I not surprised? Like that really can do this, right?
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever seen him do anything like this, but I was just like, hey, this I was actually kind of laughing too. Like I just thought it was the coolest and funniest thing to kind of cut
Mhm.
to, right? Like
Yeah.
so what happened? Johnny walks up, the acrylic nunchucks are just sitting there, and he's like, let me check these bad boys out, and just starts
Yeah.
like, just go,
Yeah.
so yeah, you just can't imagine.
I love his line, they don't hurt that bad. You may want to go back to the lab on
Go back to
these.
the lab. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
In this,
It's kind of weird. I for some reason I would have loved a reference back to season one when he sees the nunchucks in the ad, which
uh,
gets him to the All Valley in the magazine. And I was like, I don't know why, it's like $400 for nunchuck. What a ripper. Whatever. I for some reason, I don't know, like I would have like loved like some reference to that, but we didn't get it, so it's fine. But
yeah, I mean, we got a lot of other references
yeah.
throughout this batch. Really,
Mhm.
I was rewatching episode 8 earlier today, or listening to the audio rather, and there was a few references in there where it's like, oh, is that what they were kind of going for? Like a version of this line or something. So can't wait to get to that episode too. We cut to no. I keep skipping over the Johnny stuff. In this little discussion with the sponsor, we learned that Johnny may have dabbled in some Skinamax,
Yeah, we knew he did the
the modeling thing.
yeah. Well, no, he did
Oh,
the strip
the
club.
dancing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. The girls got kind of
Because I'm
grabby,
handy,
so
yeah, grab
yeah.
So, but because he was talking about like videos or something, and
Mhm.
what the sponsorship can lead to. But no, this once he figures out what the possibilities of opportunities for his students, he snaps into that professional mode and talks about how we're inclusion and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, it definitely he's thinking about Miguel, who wants to go to
yeah,
Stanford, so
right,
obviously that's what he's thinking. I also
right.
thought like there was like it was a subtle reference, like my kids are like, well, better looking. Just a subtle reference to, every actor in the show is, amazing. So,
They're all great
so
looking,
yeah,
and a lot of
right.
them
Yeah,
model, show them
exactly.
models all the
Exactly.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
we see
Mhm.
great photos. Let's see here. At this point, nope, I'm skipping ahead again. Kreese shows up with a dagger, and then they bicker back and forth about
Mhm.
which weapon is deadlier. Good, big measuring contest.
Mhm.
Okay, so this scene in particular, what did you think of their interaction? This is the first time since prison. Was
Yeah,
that the last time they
right.
saw each other?
Mhm.
Face to face, basically. Like they obviously saw each other across the mats, at the end
Right.
of episode 5. So, what did you think of this conversation? Did you?
I think this is the scene a lot of people wanted, because a lot of people, I mean, Kreese vaguely describes like why no one's arresting him and everything. So I guess it's like the buildup, but Johnny's holding himself in because he wanted to make Kreese a dead man, but Daniel told
Right.
him no.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's what's to be expected, and it's kind of the scene that it explains away as much as they can.
Yeah. And when we first got some of these images, this was one of them, where Johnny is with Kreese and they have the Do. Now, we talked a little bit about it then. Obviously, we've seen this middle five here, and there's no mention of why Kreese has it. Do you have uh, like
He has it with
any
him.
additional thoughts? Yeah, why
My
he has that?
assumption is, I guess, Sensei
Or
or
Master?
Kim Sun Young, yeah, grab it, Kim Sun
Yeah,
Young, um, you know, gave it to him or let him keep it after recovering it as like a sign of trust in you, like I'm letting you run the dojo. Um, so he just sort of had it, like he was
yeah,
able to get it, so he let him keep it. I also
right.
want to point out, just because of the way some fans, no one thinks it's crazy or weird that Kreese has a knife like that with him, you know?
I do.
Some people think so, well, so I mean, yeah, but like, but it's not like the guy says, "Why would you bring a knife here?" You know?
Or call
Um,
security,
right, exactly. Like it's like, this is a relic, a family relic or whatever, but no one thinks it's odd. So I bring that up for discussion later because based on comments I get on my videos.
It would be funny if like that the sponsor guy is all like, oh yeah, looking at that, it's like that is not deadly at all. But
It would be funny,
again,
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
we know how
This guy's a
things
vendor, not a sponsor.
vendor.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and also like it would be funny. I mean, this is a joke, obviously, but it's like Master Kim was like, ah, yeah, you can keep that. I got a pile over here for the next idiot who wants to go on a mission for me.
Mhm.
You know, but yeah, I thought it was
Well, I guess.
since we got no mention of it, I was just like, oh, okay. So I guess
Hmm.
Master Kim just gave to him. It's like, well, maybe at some
Yeah.
point, because he's like 140, maybe at some point he just came to terms like, yeah, you know, I'm I'm
Mhm.
past it. I'm past it. What of it? There's
I mean,
uh,
apparently he hadn't had the knife for almost 80 years, so it
yeah,
had been
since he
sitting
was
in that
12.
cave. So it's
Yeah,
like, well, I haven't had it for 80. You can go ahead and keep it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Clean it up. It's yours.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
let's see here. We cut to Tori, who is by herself. Robbie finds her and they have a talk. She tells Robbie she wasn't going to get a fair shake at Miyagi-Do, and he tells her that he's sorry about her mother and reminds her that she said they should stick together. And at this point, Sam walks in, which makes Tori stop talking and tells Robbie that they shouldn't be talking about this, and she leaves again. Um, Sam is probably just checking up on Robbie, right? It's not like being
Yeah, I
nosy. It's
think
kind of like
so.
what
Yeah.
Juan was doing, except for like
Hmm.
she's doing it like in front of them, just making sure things are cool.
Hmm.
We cut back to the rest of Miyagi-Do, who find themselves in the middle of a kicking competition. Like this is
But
like I hate an answer, right? Just don't think too far into it. But I'm thinking like, how did we get here? The last time we saw Quan, he's like, oh, there she goes again. And all these other people were gonna squabble a little bit at some point, and now somebody just decides, hey, we do a freaking contest and to face this standee here, this dolphin standee. So we see who we'll find out is the captain of the Russian team Tiger Strike, Vlad. He starts first. They're all chanting, and I thought this was kind of similar to like Daniel's Ice Break Challenge in a way, from Karate Kid
hmm.
Part 2. Here, Quan challenges Team USA and mocks them in front of everyone else by starting a USA chant. So this is the scene that I watched. I remember vividly
Hmm.
the chanting of Vlad, Vlad, Vlad. I'm like, okay, that tall guy there is Vlad,
Hmm.
and that's all I do.
Hmm.
And you guys, we will at some point be doing an episode of just my visit. But I'll sprinkle a little bit of that stuff here. Do you have any questions of like the scene for me?
Did you see them film the whole thing, including Robbie and Kwan's kick? Or
No. So right before that, so the first thing we I watched, and that's the first thing they started working on was Vlad. So
mm,
the beginning of that, and then I am literally leaving as I hear Brandon say, "Or is it because your girlfriend's on our team?"
Oh, okay.
And
Hmm.
I got that spoiler because part one wasn't out yet. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah. And so like I was just like, what?
mm,
And 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 that was at least a couple hours or so,
yeah,
for what's just like, yeah, a few minutes in this episode, which is wild. Uh
yeah.
Also, like, do you remember seeing Reina in this, or sorry, Zara in the scene at all?
No,
She is
I
in,
think of it
yeah,
as the guys are here.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's where I took a picture with Reina is in this moment. You actually do see her. You have to really look for it. There's a point where she's standing and she's holding her phone as if like she's doing a live.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so if you go back and look for it, you'll see her in the background. Because when there was a stoppage, like John had already, like I had recognized her already. I was like, John, is that is that martial artist, that has all those videos, that kind of thing. And he's like, oh,
Right, right.
you're familiar? And I'm like, yeah, I see her videos all the time. And so, yeah, at a point when they were,
Oh, I
people
see
were,
it. I see it. It's
you
the
see it
when
now?
it's right at the beginning of the scene they're walking in. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
And so yeah, you see her holding her phone. So I was
Right.
watching that. She kind of, from my vantage point, she stood out holding the phone. I was closest to that end as
Hmm.
Miyagi-Do is entering the scene,
Hmm. Right.
and so everybody was like focus on other things. You had like Miguel, or not Miguel, Sholo, and like Una taking pictures in between, and these are the ones that we would end up seeing on social media. So that was kind of
Hmm.
cool to see. And so I took a moment and walked over to Reina, and I introduced myself, said who I was and stuff, and
Hmm.
I was just like, oh, is I was like, hey, I forgot what I asked her. I'm sure I wrote a note down for the upcoming episode, but I asked her about like her character, why she was like holding the phone. I was like, are you taking selfies or you're something like that?
Hmm.
And she's like, oh no, my character is like an influencer. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. And so when this dropped and I watched the episode, I was like, I don't even see Zara
Yeah,
in the scene
you
at
that's
all.
a miss blink and you miss it. I
Yeah.
mean, even look stare intently and you still miss it. So it's like a
Right, right. And so like I remember after subsequent viewings of part two, and like as I start to get familiar with like, your Diego and Maria from
Mhm.
Furia de Pantera. That's when I started noticing them in other points too. Like I don't know how long it took me to realize that the photo that they took earlier was a captain's photo, even though it's in the dialogue. That's the thing. Like when I'm
Yeah.
watching, I'm always either I'm listening to the dialogue or I'm watching the background, and then I'll miss the dialogue. And so it took
Oh,
me it took me a while to realize that I just
yeah.
thought everybody was actually facing the same way. I didn't know the other side of the teams was looking at them taking the picture. So it's so weird. But anyway, that's
Mhm.
when I started noticing. I was like, oh shit, Diego and Maria are also in this in taking the picture as well, not knowing it was a captain's photo. So it's just, again, man, there's so many things going on.
Mhm.
But okay. Uh we're back at the cocktail mixer, and Daniel and Gunther and the others are talking about the headband. He gives Daniel the name of Master Serrano as someone who may have some information on him. I do
Mhm.
love this where Daniel kind of like questions who that is, and out of nowhere, like Sensei Kim's just like, dummy. That's like, oh, he's like the greatest. That's the goat. Like, how do you not know? I love her energy in that
Mhm.
delivery. Kind of like, how did Daniel LaRusso not know Master Serrano? Like, I love that moment. Um, it's just almost like, did you play Mortal Kombat?
But,
Uh,
yeah, way back in the day.
yeah. Do you remember like part two? They had like this guy named Dan Forden, I think, who's like the sound guy or whatever. He would insert himself and do toasty anytime they did a like uppercut or something. But it was kind of like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
some
So, so,
weird
so
thing
Sensei
like
Kim
that.
literally popped out of nowhere just to like deliver that line, and that was it for the rest of that conversation. I thought it was kind of
Yeah.
funny. It's just to say like, "Hey, I'm here," so that way when later on Daniel recounts like who else may know, like, oh, Reese's partner was also there. So I love that little addition. Um, let's see. Kreese and Johnny are talking. When asked why he's there, Kreese tells him that he owes some people a little payback. Who
Hmm.
are some of these people, do you think, including these two? Um, who
Well,
kind of
Johnny and Danielle, after that stunt they pulled in prison.
right, right. It was supposed to get him a lawyer. Instead, it was no mercy,
Mhm.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to think. I was like, well, he doesn't know about Silver yet, and so I was wondering, like, oh, he's just being cute with it. But I was wondering if there's anybody else other than just these two. Um, he continues to tell him about he used to have a soft spot for him, and things have changed, and he will show him the real definition of no mercy, which I felt like
Hmm.
he would have told him by now, like like back in '84 or something, the
Yeah.
real definition of no mercy.
Hmm.
So this sounds like a definition number two of no mercy is what it sounds like.
Hmm.
Um, because no one asked. Daniel shows up to make sure that these two guys don't start fighting, and there's little talk about what's at stake and who has what to lose. I do like the little line that Daniel has to Kreese where he's like, "You want to level threats, you son of a bitch," or something like that, right? I was just like, "Ooh, Daniel, I like this color on you." It made me clutch my pearls a little bit. I like feisty Daniel. Um,
Yeah.
at this point, we get a drunk chosen who has found his way to
Ah,
the
here it
to the
is.
mixer. Yeah. He's making a bit of a scene, shouting out his affiliation with Miyagi-Do. Do
Hmm.
you remember your first reaction and how you felt for the character of Chosen in this very moment?
Felt for him.
Yes. Other than like, I mean, people
Well,
were
I mean,
probably
it's
laughing.
it's the funniest stuff I think of the season so far. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I should if I guess I did not engage in much empathy for how Chosen was feeling. Although you understand certainly when you think about it that like he's really depressed. He's a private guy, which is the way, and he doesn't like to put himself out there. He's very reserved. Partially about regrets from the past, but he was trying to put himself out there for Kumiko
Right.
and kind of got shot down in the worst way, at least as he's interpreting it.
Well, we'll get there
Mhm.
very shortly here. You did not at all have like secondhand embarrassment for him?
Um,
Because you think about it, right?
no,
Like he,
no,
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 okay,
because but I think partially because it happened suddenly.
okay.
It would
Maybe it
be
was building
I
up.
would feel that if like we saw something like there was a whole build up with it
Yeah.
and
Okay.
we saw it and then it happened. But yeah, I think that sort of thing. But the second embarrassment is playing into the humor, so that's
Yeah. 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 I think it's a little bit more humorous than the other for me. But
mhm.
but I had wondered if anybody felt like strongly the secondhand embarrassment for
I
Chosen.
I would almost feel it more for like Daniel,
Okay.
because Daniel's like the one who's like, oh my God, like
He's the face,
so
right? He's the face
yeah,
of
right.
Miyagi-Do.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, mentioned earlier Daniel mentioned that he couldn't get a hold of Chosen, so I do wonder how Chosen knew where to go. I'm sure he could just ask and figure it out. He finds himself at the bar and orders two Long Island iced teas, one for each fist, double fist. I don't know if I had any more to add to that particular thing, but I do. Does it? He doesn't seem intoxicated. He just I don't know. It's the way Yuji kind of plays him, where he's just like, "Oh, my man," he's just excited for more drinks. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Chosen has it's a long flight to Barcelona, maybe from Okinawa. I don't know. I'm sure it is. I don't know the distance, but I'm wondering, like, for like the flashback and how we see how disappointed and sad and all of that. I thought it was a little interesting to have him show up and he's kind of more like, hell yeah, it's time to party now. Like at least that was kind of my reading of it. I could be wrong in that.
I think he
Not
was
necessarily
drunk, and
party,
I
but
thought about it. My only assumption is he was getting booze on the flight,
yeah,
um, and just drinking there. So that's my take.
okay.
I did like wonder because I think he was supposed to be drunk. Is like, well, when and how did he was he like drinking elsewhere in Barcelona before he came here? or not, but maybe on the flight. But yeah, I think he's supposed to be drunk, which is why we even
Right.
got it sprinkled earlier. Have you been
Oh
drinking
no,
again?
I know he's drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know he's
yeah.
drunk, but it's like I guess his attitude as drunk chosen right now. You know, I see
Right.
he's a little bit more. It doesn't seem as sad as I thought he would be, but maybe he just needs to
Mhm.
be triggered by an orchid. I don't know. Um, let's see here. At this point, okay, drunk chosen. Long Island iced tea. Johnny and Daniel are unamused, but we do see Kreese with a giant smile. And I think this is the first time they're sharing a screen too. Because we were just
Um,
talking about Daniel and Johnny visiting Kreese in prison. That was the last time they saw him.
yeah,
And
right.
Chosen was not at the beginning, at the second attack in the beginning of episode 6. So this is the first time Kreese is like, oh, he's with you guys. And I think that's why like it's such a big grin, you know.
Yeah, right.
We cut back to the kicking challenge, and it appears that Hawk has volunteered to represent them. Miguel doesn't think it's a good idea, and this is I I thought this was interesting because Hawk is like, oh, you know, like you got the biggest guy, right? And then Miguel's like, no,
Mhm.
I think that's a stupid idea. And then Dimitri's like, that was me, and it's like it further to remind you like these guys are not the binary brothers right now. They are like one
Mhm.
and one. You know,
Right.
they're not on the same page, and even Hawk thought Miguel said something that Dimitri said, so clearly he wasn't paying attention to what Dimitri was saying at the time. I mean, these
Mhm.
guys, they are a mess. Um, and so I thought the writers were really, they did like a really good job at doing, you know, making me
Right.
think that. I'm just like, shit. Uh, let's see, Miguel, Devin thinks it's a dumb idea, and she's out of there.
Right.
And this is when Yoon walks up to Hawk and questions if he's the best that the team has to offer.
Mhm.
And Quan, from an earshot, asks that he's not even the captain and questions where Robbie is, and enter Robbie. So, observation I had while watching this, during like the run through or whatever, Tanner was having fun with it. And I think maybe because like, I think it was just a run through, but I was just kind of like, what's going on? Why is Tanner like delivering his lines in a really weird voice? And so like all these things start to make sense. Like you know, for those that listened to my interview with Daniel Wheat, who plays Vlad, he was talking about a scene where they were filming, and because he's so tall, he's actually blocking Tanner, and so you don't see
Tanner,
Robbie on
yeah.
that screen. Yeah, and so like
Right.
Tanner was like hitting his head against Daniel's back while they were actually filming, and so that was actually while filming. So I watched
Yeah.
them not filming but rehearsing, and Tanner is like delivering his lines like really comically. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And so like hearing these stories, I'm just like, that's just Tanner on set. That's just what he does. You know, like
Yeah.
his video bomb that he did in one of my pictures. You know, so. I thought it was really interesting. It's just like
Good.
these
Yeah.
are things that you don't really hear people share. You know, like so who are the goofballs on set? You know, and that's why like I haven't watched that video with Frank on YouTube yet, where it's like his the wardrobe department. Did you watch that one?
No, I didn't know it was there,
Okay,
actually.
yeah, yeah. There is a video with Frank. I didn't watch it yet, but I remember when I spoke with him during part one, he talked about like, you know, at some point maybe he'll release like some of the pictures that he takes of like, you know, the actors in their uh, wardrobe, and
Hmm.
he talks about how like Jacob and Courtney are like I guess maybe the two goofballs or maybe the most animated, you know,
Right.
when in like action poses and whatnot. So
Hmm.
those are always fun to hear because you don't hear about them. So
Right.
um,
Yeah.
let's see, Quan, Robbie, into Robbie. Okay, so Robbie tries to get the team to leave. Quan is got on Quan and takes a dig at Robbie and asks if he always walks away from a challenge or is it if because his girlfriend is on their team. And this is like,
So Quan knows.
yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I mean, I guess that's interesting because I wonder he probably knows like how does he know? Because Tori's not someone who's just gonna go around and shed her
It
personal
was
life.
in the
It's
beginning.
probably Sensei Kim.
No, I think it was the beginning, right? Like he when he sees Miyagi-Do, and then like Tori like just bypasses all of them, right? And then like Robbie goes after, doesn't he? Right? Doesn't Robbie
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to
I
go
mean,
after her as they walk by? and so maybe
Yeah,
he's
I
just
don't know, but like
yeah,
I don't know how he knows, but like he knows she was on a team, obviously. So, but like the specific relationship stuff, could have came from
yeah.
Kim.
It could
Um,
it could have been like maybe just dialogue in front of them, like maybe
yeah,
Tori
that's
was talking
true.
with Kreese, yeah, things like that.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's a good dig. Um, and then let's see, Robbie. Oh yeah, so they wager. Wait, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff here. Devin finds her way to Tori. Yeah, ooh, I skipped a lot. Okay, this gets to Robbie, and he accepts the challenge, and they wager rooms. To which Dimitri says that's gambling, even though he told Robbie he's just going to get them a room. Same thing. Devin finds her way to Tori, who is again just hanging out alone. She tells her that she gets why she did what she did, which makes one of them because
Sense, yeah.
Tori's not even
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
Tori learns from Devin about Robbie's headspace and how the team is worried for the both of them.
Hmm.
Sam shows up again and is about to leave with Devin, but Tori stops her and has a talk with Sam. Now, when this was about to go down, did you think it was gonna end badly? Not like they were gonna start fighting, but did you think they were gonna have fighting words to end the scene with?
Sam and Tori, no, because I don't think either of them were at that spot,
Right.
in terms of like headspace or something, because I think out of Miyagi-Do's, I mean, the ones seem to be the most knowledgeable is Devin and Sam here. And I like Devin. I like all this stuff here with Tori. I think it's kind of good stuff.
Oh yeah. I like it a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I was scared because like they've been doing it with Johnny and Daniel, like every other season. It's like, oh, we're good again. Oh, great. Here's
Right. The go
just
back.
another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like after that really great moment between the two, Sam and Tori in part
Hmm.
one in episode three, I was
Hmm.
just like, oh no, they're about to be enemies again. And I just love the way it plays out. Like, no, there's no fighting words. It's more
Yeah, I
just
think
like,
this plays out a lot better.
yeah, I'm
And
just
I buy it more. I feel like it's in character for both of them.
yeah,
Because like I said, even though Tori went to Cobra Kai, but it's not like she suddenly hates Sam again or anything,
no,
or any of that. There's actually no rivalry there. In part of Tori's journey here, she's feeling so lost and everything. And like I just said earlier, here, Kreese is the only one who seems to have gotten made understood what she was going through, because what she wanted to make her mom proud. Kreese
right,
knows that.
yeah,
And that was always it. She's trying to reclaim. She wanted to win the All Valley. That I'll just have that one thing, but that was kind of taken from her in the sense of Terry Silver bribing the ref, and like now, but Kreese knows what she wants and is giving it to her.
yeah.
Um,
We go back to the boys and Robbie kicks, and which is actually pretty high. It's the highest one that's marked. And then Quan kicks, and I love how he kind of like psychs himself out or whatever, or kind of gets him to that mental headspace to be able to muster up the I don't know the energy to jump up that high, whatever. Like I like that moment where he's just like that little shout and whatever. So he kicks higher and they win and exit as the whole crowd is chanting Cobra Kai
I
again. And,
have
and
an
I'm,
important
yeah,
question here.
yes.
Would Robbie have won if he were taller, longer legs?
Science tells me yes. Yeah, so the short king Robbie or whatever the name was, maybe
Yeah.
they were onto something with that. Um, Yeah, it's still a pretty darn high kick. But yeah,
No, it's
but
yeah, it's
but
really
but
good.
he underestimated Kwan. This is
Mhm.
the first time they've all met. And I'm
And as
sprinkling,
a fan of
yeah,
Quan, I do like to see it.
yeah, it's great. Like
Mhm.
Kwan's like kind of MVP of part two here.
Yeah.
We'll get through all of those, but I'm sprinkling in these like little tidbits for those that maybe don't do interviews because um there was somebody who said something something. And I was like, oh, well, I did a interview with Brad. I assumed that this person also listened to my interviews. Is kind of what I'm getting at. And when they're
Mhm.
like, oh no, like I don't do the interviews, but I like the episode breakdowns. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, that's interesting. Because I thought Brandon dropped like a lot of great tidbits. So for those that don't listen to the interviews. I'll drop some of the tidbits that I learned from them. But Brandon did mention that I believe he said he improvised like, after the victory, he chants like Quan, Quan, and because like Joel,
Right.
the director, goes to him, so it's like, oh, feel free to use the crowd, and so that's when he's like
Yeah.
Quan, 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 and then Brandon says that John Hurwitz comes to him and saying, hey, try Cobra Kai. And
Cobra
that's
Kai.
that's
Yeah.
that's how we got this. Yeah.
Right.
And I
Hmm.
do remember the chanting of the Cobra Kai. So in my interview with Brandon, I was like, wait, were things filmed out of order? Because I kind of remember the sequences differently. And because I was like, well, I remembered the last thing I heard, which
Right.
came before something I heard like during the middle of the filming. So
Hmm.
yeah, oh, editing, man, I tell you.
Yeah.
Um, we go back to the mixer and we find out that Chosen has just gotten back from Okinawa, and he shares how he runs into Shower Man, aka Towel Man. So
Yeah.
two more superhero names, to add to Poor Man, right? But who's the original Shower Man? I thought that was Daniel, or is that the Invisible Man? That's the Invisible Man, right? That's not Shower Man.
Could be. I
It could
don't
be.
know that.
'Cause I
Yeah.
think Mr. Miyagi called him the Invisible Man, maybe. So this gentleman, I'm sure you've heard all types of things that people are saying in your comments, but what do you think? Who do you think this gentleman is? Do you
I
think he's
think
her boyfriend?
ah, what do I think? That's a good question. I think boyfriend, no. I feel could he be I don't even know. I like people have said brother, but I don't think it's brother because Chosen would know if she had a brother. They grew up
Daniel would
together,
know.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right, right.
yeah,
Like he would know if it was a brother or something. So,
and also okay. Counselor Blatt exists because if you go back and watch the Karate Kid films, there could be someone that could be Rachel Blatt, right?
right.
Or
Hmm.
I think that's the name that they hold her. That her name, first name, maybe Rachel. But anyway, but Kumiko having a brother, there is no little boy in the Karate Kid Part Two. Is so that makes zero sense. And this is not this is not BB.
I mean, they grew up in a small town and knew each other. Like if she had a brother, Chosen would have known her. So
Right.
it's definitely not brother. I think it could be um, like it could be roommate or someone else from the dancing troupe, like
That's actually what I
staying
was
with her.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because that's a plausible reason for
Hmm.
like having a male in her house. It's like, oh well,
Right.
like that's whatever could be men and women.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hmm.
that's kind of what I was thinking, but I do not believe this is like a anything romantic. Now, what does that
He's not the lover. We
right?
just finished. She's in the
Right.
shower. No. Yeah.
Right. That is why she's in the shower. It was a mess.
Right, right, right.
But there's I so what does that mean for Chosen and Kumiko? Well, I always thought it would have been a weird pairing anyway. Just like how the events of part two, and also like part of me personally just feels that like not everybody needs to be together kind of thing. So that's just my standpoint on it. If they write that in, that's fine. But
Mhm.
so what I think is like, okay, well, they don't hook up, but we could possibly still see Kumiko. And yeah, maybe Chosen does end up with Sensei Kim, or maybe they don't hook up, or remain together in part three. But I think that's what that is because if we don't have this moment, I mean, if she doesn't come back, then this moment is not too dissimilar than Allie's exit in the beginning of part two. So that's why I think there's going to be
Mhm.
more. Now at this point, he's talking to Daniel and Johnny about how he bought her flowers, and then he
Wow,
sees,
yeah.
yeah, a vase or like orchids, which apparently is what he bought her, and starts to obliterate a couple of them. Um,
Mhm.
at this point, Johnny and Daniel trying to console him as Gunther asks them to leave. Now, there
Mhm.
was a moment where they zoom in on like who we would find out is I think the security guard, like this bald guy. But when they
Mhm.
first show his face, I'm like, wait, is that someone we're supposed to know? So it kind of threw me off for a little bit. Um, we go. back to the kids who are all at the hotel, and they're having discussion about how they're pretty much unhappy with Robbie and his headspace. Sam kind of outs him here with having knowledge of
Right.
Kreese going to Tori, which makes everybody even more upset. I've this was kind of sad because like at one point he even like Miguel, like hoping to get his back, right? Like they're soon to be stepbrothers. And Miguel's like, nah, man. Like the whole captain thing, and like now you're withholding information. But I'm not asking for like right or wrong, but how are you feeling for Robbie in this moment?
Um, well, yeah, he's kind of like I think like that it's not like he was keeping Crease's secret. Like it was like Tori asked him not to say it. And I don't think it was that big a deal. Like I think like it's looking worse than it really was. Um, for Robbie. Like, because they feel like he was like he knew all this, but he really didn't. Like, he
Right.
was as surprised by Tori's turn as they were.
The problem is it's like that the classic game of telephone, right? Like
Hmm.
Sam
Hmm.
heard from Robbie, or I'm sorry, Sam heard from Tori, but I feel she kind of misreads that a little bit, or at
Hmm.
least like
Yeah.
Tori's like, oh yeah, well Robbie knew, but she took that as like, oh, Robbie knew everything, and like, and he didn't tell us, and so I think it's that. And Robbie doesn't know exactly what Tori told Sam, and they're not
Hmm.
making things clear. I don't think this is like Sam jumping to conclusions, but it's just a thing that like,
Yeah.
context here, they're not really
Yeah.
communicating very
Right.
well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, we skipped to about 1:04 a.m., which is, I don't know, maybe daytime for the US, but everyone is tossing and turning. We get the um the needle drop, 80s needle drop here, Thompson Twins, Hold Me Now, one of my
Hmm.
favorites. I literally listen to this song almost monthly. Like it's on my 80s playlist. Like I do love this song. Um did you
Nice.
like the song for this
I
bit of a
didn't
montage?
notice. I mean, the music is often not my thing. Like I know,
Okay.
yeah, there's a song playing, yeah,
Okay,
and they all
okay.
have jet lag, I guess.
There
So
was music with lyrics. I knew that
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Okay, okay. I knew that you didn't know like titles and like that, but I thought you would have at least kind of like, oh yeah, I recognize that as an 80s song. Like because I do feel that's been in like a lot of
Yeah, I've
movies.
heard this song. Yeah, I've heard it. Like I guess I recognize it, but like I
51st
couldn't
Dates with Sandler.
pinpoint it. Oh, was
Yeah.
it in that? I mean, I'm sure
There
it
was a
was.
different
Yeah.
version. Yeah, there was a different version of it because it was in
Mhm.
Hawaii. Um, but so that song is playing and um you think for most of them it's the time difference or it's probably
I
that,
guess
but
that. I mean, I feel like they when I first watched it, they wanted to think like they're all in a bad, headspace. They're all,
right.
disturbed about Tori. They're upset, they lost one of their rooms and everything. But also I think like time difference is a more practical answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, we no surprise. Daniel sleeps with a face mask. He seems to be okay, on his own bed. Johnny's on his own bed. I'm not sure if he's up or he sleeps a little upright. He's got headphones on. Chosen is on the floor with a bunch of empty liquor bottles. Yeah, he has a tank top on, I think, or maybe an undershirt, but his
Mhm.
other shirt is next to him, amongst other things. And Johnny hits him because he was snoring. Now, how come it may be to a room, but how come Chosen doesn't have a room? Is it because he's just been drinking again? Maybe they're like, let's just keep an eye on him,
Yeah, that
perhaps.
would make sense. That would make sense. I thought like it was two to a room. Um,
Yeah.
but but then maybe you only have two senseis, so you only get one room for both senseis.
Yeah, that's
I
actually
don't
kind of
know, but
interesting. Yeah, yeah. Don't think too deep into it. Robbie decides to go pay Tori a visit and continue their conversation. The one
mhm,
thing I didn't mention it because Amy already said it in her synopsis, but like Quan, has got the bed to himself, the room to himself, but he I guess he's got his own room. So they have I'm assuming at least four rooms. Well, okay, Kreese and Kim probably have their own rooms, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
so that's two. Tori, and I'm assuming now there's a female Cobra Kai fighter, and that's
yeah,
pretty much what she's credited as. Uh,
yeah. They
the
share a
act
room with Tori.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the actress, martial artist, her name is Alex Wong. She
Hmm.
doesn't have a name, and I'll have to talk to her to see if she agrees with this. But for the purpose of the review, I'm just going to refer to her as Alex. Um, that she doesn't have a
Fair
character
enough.
name.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to keep saying the other female uh, fighter, but her husband, who is also a fighter on the show, he fights for Thailand. I will be interviewing the two of them as well. Like I've heard, I've done my research, and they both have some pretty great stories. That I hope they can share in a upcoming interview. So I'm assuming, yep. So Alex and Tori, that makes three. Kwan, so Sung Ho, Min Sok probably share a room. Yoon and Kwan would have had one, so that's five. Then Kwan got them a sixth room. So Cobra Kai has six rooms, and so maybe Yoon has the other room by himself.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
assume Quan and Yoon, they were bunkmates and now they each
right.
have their own room.
Yeah. Let's see, Robbie. Okay, so yeah, story of visit. It looks like Tori is on the 11th floor, based off of the room number. I think it was like
Oh, good
11:13 or
catch.
something. Yeah, because I'll have to go back and watch my video, but I have a video of me walking through like the quote unquote hotel, not knowing what it was going to serve. It
Mhm.
like purpose it serves in the story, and so I think I say like four something. So like where I was walking through was like the fourth floor. So
Oh, mhm.
yeah. So I was just like, oh, interesting. So yeah, she's a little bit higher up. Um, Tori suggests that they focus on karate and themselves and take a pause in their relationship, which Robbie thinks that she's breaking up with him.
Yeah, I don't like Robbie that he just jumps to these conclusions, man.
Yeah,
It's like she says nothing of the sort. Um, but he just seems to take the worst possible way.
right.
Um,
She's right there. It's just the two of you. Like you can ask her, I mean, I guess he does say like, what do you do, breaking up with me? But
mhm,
yeah, he just, I guess, I guess if we remember to back to when we were like 16, 17 and about to face like one of our biggest breakups, like he's probably his emotions just like everywhere. Like everyone's mad at me.
mhm,
My future stepbrother, wants to be well, I guess he doesn't know about the captain thing right now, but yeah, Robbie's not in a very good place right now.
mhm.
He just lost a room, and
Yeah, it's true.
there's their stuff was thrown out in the hall probably. I was just
Mhm,
thinking about that too on my rewatch. I was like, man, they exchanged keys right then, and like all
mhm.
of their shit is in the room. I'd be like, no, let me get my own stuff. You guys can wait
Yeah.
in the hall. Like we're surrendering our room, but don't you dare touch my shit. Like that's what I would have done. Um, okay, so we are. Did you have any more on Robbie and Tori?
Um,
In this movement?
Let me look. Do. I just for dude, get it together to
Yeah,
Robbie. Like I feel like he's almost making it worse for himself um by just taking things, so badly from what she said. Like, you know, let's just focus on karate, which honestly, like I think any good couple would say, we're at the biggest tournament of our lives.
yeah,
Maybe let's just focus on this because this is, we got like 3 days or however many, to focus on this,
right.
like I think Sam and Miguel are doing the same thing. They're not sneaking off to another room themselves. Oh,
Yeah, this is literally why we are here. Yeah, like
right, exactly,
Sekai, like
exactly. Like,
yeah,
so, like, I think, I mean, Tori, despite being on Cobra Kai, is making like the mature and just sensible thing, and Robbie is just like all over the place.
yeah,
I feel like it's regression as a character too, because like I
a
think
little bit.
yes, season 5, showed him a little bit more of himself when he broke up with her because she was staying with Cobra Kai. Um,
Right. Um, when I can, I tune into your live streams. I'll
right,
always
right, you do.
I always try to let you know, hey, I'm here. So that way
Mm-hmm.
which ones I'm tuning into. And I feel a lot of people, and not just in your streams. It's this situation right here between the two of them, Robbie and Tori. People have often like paralleled or compared to Ross and Rachel, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I thought this was very interesting that like I feel us on a pause is much more specific than a break, right? Like, well, you know,
Right.
you can misinterpret. Everyone interprets a break separately. Like, this is a pause. Robbie, you guys are not breaking up. You are putting a hold on your relationship right now to get through this competition, you know,
The
and so
biggest tournament in your life. Yeah.
in your life,
Like,
that's it.
right.
Yeah, you are the you're captain. You wanted to be captain, you know, and
Right.
so
Exactly.
um so we're at the Sekai Tekai tournament, and Gunther is addressing the competitors. He explains their first event, the Captain's War. Now, these were all supposed to be, I kind of forget the language he uses, but I do believe they're, you know, it's supposed to be like basically a secret that they're going to reveal it right before they actually do it,
Each
um,
competition. Yeah. Hmm.
right before each event. And for um, the Captain's War, it does sound like because he doesn't say like we call it the captain's board, does he? Because I was trying to remember,
Yeah, I think he
like
does,
he does.
essentially. Yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to remember. Crap, I really wish I wrote. I might be able to find it, but I was trying to see if this is a event they might have had before, because we're about to get introduced to the Iron Dragons,
Right.
and I'm wondering like, well, is this something they had before? Because Iron Dragons, who are, you know, former champions themselves, they may be familiar with this and kind of know, you know, it's not
What's
their
going
first
on?
rodeo,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is how we did before, and we're gonna do that thing again,
I
kind of thing.
imagine they have a pool of like 20, 25 different things and they kind of pull from, and maybe they modify things occasionally slightly or something.
They'll do that next
Um,
episode for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like Price is Right, right? They have like
Okay.
35 games and then they pull out five, for that show or something, you know.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I thought, like, in what upset me is like, certainly, like, Miyagi-Do, you could have been able to research past Sekai Taikais,
Right.
and like known what have they've done in the past and trained for that. But like, we never actually got that. The most we got was a little bit from Mike Barnes, who did know, you'll be surprised with events or something is the line he said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we could see what kind of surprises they pull.
Right. In a random draw, A is the first to go, obviously,
Mhm.
which includes Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai.
Right.
Quan says to hit Miyagi-Do first because they're the weakest. And I love this part where like Tori is like, oh, they're gonna protect the egg, and so we need to go at it first. And
Well,
then it
you know
cuts
what's interesting? So Quan says that, like, those hit Miyagi-Do, and then he says, they're the weakest. Well, let them come to us. And I thought, whoa, 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 dude. What happened to strike first? Um, he says, we'll let them come to us. And it's funny because then the Miyagi-Do is like, let them come to us. Everyone has the same
Yeah, but
strategy.
I feel who did I have a conversation with this with because I don't know if Quan does strike first, right? Because that's Kreese's thing, and then
Yeah, it's creases. So it seems like, and I thought about this, and it's worth getting into, at
yeah,
some point, like that,
okay,
like Master Kim Sun Young was just about the no mercy. Kreese himself added the strike first, strike hard.
right, yeah,
Mhm.
because if you remember back to part one, episode three,
Mhm.
I did talk to well, Brendan and Daniel for sure, but like the confrontations between Yoon and Quan never struck first. I think there was only one point, and it wasn't until after like Freeze, kind of instilled that little confidence in him, like, "Oh, go take what's, rightfully yours," kind of deal. And I
Yeah,
think that's when he goes and like shoves Yoon, and
right.
that's
Mhm.
that's the closest to like striking first. In episode 8, we're gonna see like Yoon can strike first, but that's because he's preventing to
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
the thing with Axel. So, but I guess he Quan does eventually strike it first, but that's because Tori takes the lead. He's just
Right.
following her lead.
Tori's
Yeah,
taking the
yeah,
lead. Yeah.
right. Okay, so I guess I was thinking about the physical sense, but I guess the other way works as well. Um, But yeah, I do. I thought it was kind of hilarious because it cuts to Miguel and he's basically like, yeah, we got to protect the egg, and they're gonna come at it. So it's like they kind of like know each other, and I think it
Exactly.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, they were very specific with having Miguel deliver that to like, okay, well, Miguel's head's on a little bit more straight than Robbie is, so he's gonna be able to like quote unquote captain a little bit better. So I do like,
A
yeah,
little bit.
giving,
Yeah. Well, because Robbie's like, I could be on the front line. And Miguel's like, no, 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 you're the
yeah,
captain.
you left last
Miguel's
night,
thinking about the team, right? Team
right? Yeah.
strategy and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. But uh, was it yeah, yeah, Miguel's the one that reveals like, oh well, you were the one that left last night, so your head's not in the game basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So everyone's kind of like, whoa, what? Um, let's see. So Tori, she does go to Sensei Kim is like, well, these guys aren't listening to me because like Kwan's also he cuts like Tori off at one point and it's
Right.
like basically just don't get in the way, don't fall. So
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't even see her as like a captain. He's not like um acknowledging like her skills and stuff. But I guess also he probably doesn't even know what she's capable of. Like this
That's
random girl
true.
that
It's
creased
true.
rings from the
Hmm.
US and now she's fighting for us. I
Hmm.
don't even know what she's capable of. So like, maybe
Right.
that's kind of where he's coming from. Um, let's see. And so yeah, Sensei Kim, she's just like, well, why are you coming to me? Like you're captain, go captain.
Do it.
Like,
Yeah.
well, just do the damn
Make
thing,
them
and
follow
yeah,
you. Yeah.
exactly. So I like that. I like that Sensei Kim's giving her, it's not the best delivered great advice, but it's still pretty good advice. Like just freaking go lead.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so I like that little bit with them too. This is where, yeah. So yeah, Tori and Kwan, they're not really quite getting along. Let's see, we got a call back to the first All Valley, in season one, that is. Johnny says, wipe the smirk off their ugly faces. And
Mhm.
so I don't have extensive notes on all the battles, just a few things that I did write down. Kwan immediately knocks Dimitri down, which was pretty damn
Yeah.
funny.
Right. Yeah.
Which obviously that makes him out because he falls. Devin is the first one. Oh, excuse me. Devin is the first one to go after Tori. She calls that out too, and I like that they are communicating. Just because like you watch sports and stuff like that, and coaches they talk
Yeah.
about like communication is always key, whatever, whatever. And so like I
Right. Yeah.
do like how Devin goes against Sam, and I think I don't know if it was important, but I think that the reason Devin goes first is so that way we kind of end with Sam and Tori, and I'll put a pin on that uh pairing when we kind of get to
Mhm.
the end here. Um, do you have any other pairings? Because it's kind of all out, one on one right now, kind of one on
I
one on
don't
one.
really, yeah, have any of the specifics except
Okay,
the Robbie going with Quan.
yeah,
Um,
let's talk about that.
Hawk, Yoon takes out Hawk, I think. Yeah.
He does, and they give us that little audible cue that we're familiar with, right? Like the
Yeah.
screeching of the hawk. We're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
here we go,
Hmm.
and the flipping of the script. No, Hawk doesn't even get one off on Yoon, and yeah, Yoon kicks him or roundhouse, right? He does something. He
Yeah.
he knocks Hawk.
Spin kick. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, yeah. He stops him.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Devin, she gets knocked out by Tori. Yeah, I kind of forget.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tori does knock Devin out a little
yeah.
bit early, but
Uh,
Devin,
s-
yeah, holds her own. She does, despite being the one who cheated to get there. She did better than Dimitri.
yeah.
Uh,
And what she has fought with Tori
mhm.
sparring and practice. So
Yeah,
so she's
that's
she's
true.
probably a little bit used to it. Um, some other observations I know. Let's see. I think Miguel knocks Alex out. Um, one of
Yeah, I
the
think he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like this one the movement of the camera where at one point Sung Ho he plays Chun Hee, which is the one with a little bit longer hair.
Right.
I forget who he's fighting, but the camera kind of like pivots slash rotates, and then he does this kick, and then now he's facing Sam. I thought that was really slick, but
Hmm.
then like Sam takes him out almost pretty quickly too. He's one of
Hmm.
that like bangs the mat afterwards, and um the yeah, so with Robbie and Quan, I like how Quan he's like not even like at the ready, like he's not in the fighting stance, you know,
Yeah.
and that's just kind of like he's like, I got this. Like this guy is no match for me. And so what did you think of that pairing? You had mentioned you wrote that down.
Oh yeah, I think like this is a great like matchup between the two, and they're fighting. Actually, you just mentioned how he wasn't ready in fighting stance. Actually, one of the things that takes strikes me about the whole thing is like when he says like go, like good there, like none of them are like actually in a ready stance. Like some of them are still kind of huddled and standing around, but
Well,
um
and you know, like to take a football term, like I think Tori was offside, so like she was already moving before go, you know,
yeah.
because
Well,
she
there
just
is
had.
no offsides actually. So
Well, that's
honestly,
fair.
yeah.
You're right about that, but I should I guess I was just thinking like, hey, somebody needs to call everyone back and say like, hey, wait for go. But
Yeah.
I I don't I couldn't make it in a meme, but in my head I thought this one thing was funny. You know how there's often they people do this thing where like the first line it says like nobody. Right. And then there's nothing. And then the
Oh,
next line
right.
is like
Yeah.
the character and it's like something that's just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of like, the first line, like nobody, and then like second line, like Tori just runs and does like this front flip in front of like Miyagi-Do for reasons. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was just like, well, what is that? Because like she knows who they are. I don't know if it would be as intimidating, but it could be the thing where she's trying to throw them off by like this kick. Like, why does she just? I don't know. I thought it was
Mhm.
an interesting thing that Tori does in that moment, as
Mhm.
she's running towards Miyagi-Do. Um, one of the other things that I like Quan does is when he's fighting with Robbie, he does this thing where he jumps like upwards and towards Robbie and like kicks 3 times as Robbie's blocking it. I thought that was
Right.
also like a cool moment. Um, so
Robbie
I
sees
yeah,
sees Tori. This is his first time. Like he gets
yes.
distracted while seeing her,
He was
fighting
actually
Quan. Yeah.
yeah, he had the upper hand on Quan at that point. Like I
Yeah,
think
he did.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was overpowering him. Yeah, and
Mhm.
then yeah, the sight of Tori it takes him out of it, and Quan takes advantage, as we will continue to see through the next few episodes with the other characters as well. I thought it was really interesting to kind of end at least this first part of the Captain's War with Corey fighting Sam, and neither of them actually wins. It's because Robbie is thrown off and
Robbie's
literally
thrown
thrown
off. Yeah.
down,
Mhm.
disqualifying Miyagi-Do for the rest of the event. So I think I would imagine that's on purpose by design and probably like just to hold back on like the fights between Sam and Tori for when it's going to count, probably in part three if it comes down to it, because so little is known. We know that there are some spoilers out there, so I've been trying to dodge everything. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see um, if and when they pair up again, because when I go back and rewatch the batch two episodes, I'm listening for the dialogue and seeing if like, oh, see this thing that Carmen says right here, that's going to be
Mhm.
foreshadowing, So I'm looking for some of those, and so earlier at
Right.
the aquarium, Sam is talking about when Tori's like, oh, let's hope that it won't have to come to that, and she's like, well, but it will, basically it's inevitable. We're gonna have to face
Mhm.
each other, and so uh, but yeah, so they don't get to end their fight because Robbie gets them eliminated, and then this is
Mhm.
when we get that cool introduction of the Iron Dragons, which we did discuss in an episode, but we can kind of talk a little bit about it. Um, do you have anything to kind of add to the Iron Dragons and in their sequence here?
Um, so they eliminated the other dojo without losing anyone. Obviously, it's good. But what's interesting is like I'm kind of wondering how they were going about it. Like, because it seems like they eliminated the dojo one at a time, and like
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know. Yeah.
It's weird, but we do hear like the Italian team, they were the last ones to get eliminated, leaving Cobra Kai and Iron Dragons, who still has all six competitors. And
Mhm.
then we talked about in that previous episode where uh, the four unnamed Iron Dragons take a knee, which
Right.
excuses them from the event, and it is like the
Which,
boss
by the
slash.
way,
Yeah,
called it. Because I said something like, "You get
you did.
down, yeah,
Uh-huh. You called
you're
the moves. Yep.
eliminated," and so they were voluntarily getting themselves out.
And if we're calling out the things that we called, I did call out that well, I'm jumping ahead here, but at this point, when it is revealed Sensei Wolf is the Sensei of Iron Dragons, I was like, oh, this man, the look that Johnny and Wolf exchange each other is like they had in an encounter, but before then,
And
yeah.
they
So
did. It was over
they sure
steak.
did. Yeah, and it was over steak. And thinking back, like, oh man, Daniel must have been like, oh, who's that? Well, Daniel was there too during that conversation, so that's interesting. So I do love that it literally gave nothing away, but that was, the first few minutes we got to see of part two for the most
Yeah.
part. Let's see. Comes down to Cobra Kai Iron Dragons. No one's made a hit. And yep, Zara, welcome to Barcelona, bitch. And so that was the other thing that I was well, that's one thing I was wrong about, among others, I'm sure. Is that I thought that it was going to be two different sequences where we see "Welcome to Barcelona, bitch" and Zara blowing a kiss to everybody, right? Because we definitely talked
Oh,
about that
right. Yeah.
extensively too. Yeah, because I was like, oh well, the looking up at her, she looks like she is a lot more sweaty after fighting. The blowing the kiss, she looks all cleaned up and stuff, which still could have been the case, but it was definitely the same sequence. So unedited that one.
Yeah. And Axel did his little move, his hand move to
Ah,
the,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the little victory gesture.
Yeah.
Talked to Patrick Lewis about that, who gives, I believe it was Matt Mullins, his stunt double, the credit of coming up with Axel's gonna have something. And so
Yeah.
there it is.
Hmm.
I love it. Very slick. And yeah, we zoom in on Sensei Wolf's face, who gives a little smirk, and Snake.
Hmm. Oh. Do you think, but welcome to Barcelona, but do you think like it or Zara's attitude towards Tori is based on the very slight encounter while they were taking the picture? Like she was trying to like bond with her as like another girl, like, "Ooh, cute
Right.
boys," and like,
Yeah. No, that's a really great question because I thought about that a lot too. I
yeah.
don't know Zara's character and if that is in line with something she would say. Like,
Mhm.
we're gonna find out more about her and how she addresses her like followers but I think this is just, like, oh, let's throw in one of those like the front wedgie, no mercy bitch and the
Bitch,
bitch don't you
bitch,
know I know
yeah.
karate, like I think that's all that this was.
Hmm.
Because she doesn't, I don't know.
I think they're trying to show her as a little two-faced too. Like
Okay,
she's like whatever, bitch. Like, and then she's like, then she switches to influencer mode and is blowing the
that's
kisses
true.
and
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, what's that expression? Too big for your britches, or is that?
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
so I think that was like her to Tori, just
Hmm.
with the whole boss move thing that they just did, the two against three, so
Yeah.
um all right, and so that was the end of the episode. I asked for your initial thoughts, but like after
Wait, there's
kind of
there's one more thing I even wrote in my notes because it was the saddest part of the episode is the Chad McQueen memorial.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Which coincidentally we happen to be recording on the day of his birthday.
Oh, is it? I didn't
Yep,
know that
yep, yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Shout
wow.
outs to, oh God, I'm so sorry. I forgot the name on X. They posted it earlier today while I
Mm,
was working, and I saw that. I go, oh, that's
okay.
wild because like if Watch Party is ready or available, we're recording tonight, like on the day
Yeah.
of. So that, yeah. So there we go. Yes, it does end with a um little end credit here with yeah, the passing of Chad
The Chad,
McQueen.
yeah.
Yeah, obviously nobody expected it because it just happened not too long ago, right
Yeah.
before the
Hmm.
drop, and
Right.
they added it just like how they did with Rob Garrison,
Rob Garrison, yeah. Hmm.
for season
In
three,
season three, yeah.
right? So yeah, very 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 sad passing of that, and we talked about that little bit of news when we found out. So after. extensively talking about this episode. It's been our first one for like over, a couple months now.
Yeah, month and a
Uh,
half. So
month and a half, and first time we've actually talked about anything from part two because I've been doing the interviews and stuff.
right.
How do you feel about this episode 606? I guess maybe the part of the first 10.
How do I feel about okay, six within the context of the first 10?
Yes,
Like
so
I
far.
feel
Yeah,
like okay, it's like powering into the second half here. It's definitely got a lot of that setup, but it's we're playing the characters. Obviously, like I said earlier, we're dealing with stuff that happened from episode 5 with all the Tory stuff, and that's actually a big part of it, a lot into the emotional part too with Robbie and then even Devin and then Tori, of course. I love this setup with Quan. I think, him, intimidating Miyagi-Do, challenging them and beating them in the kicking contest, is all good setups. And then of course, then we get the setup with the headband and Miyagi-Do and Sensei Serrano. And so that's the whole Daniel storyline within Daniel and Johnny at odds again, which is probably our least favorite. So it's like our least favorite is Daniel and Johnny bickering. Um, Sam and Tori have way more maturity, so they're past that, even though they're on different sides. Uh,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Chosen stuff, I think, we're setting up now. Chosen is a free guy, and he's got to put Kumiko behind him, right?
yeah.
And
Kokomo,
funny
as Johnny
stuff.
calls her.
Yeah.
Still,
And
yeah,
then my favorite part of the episode ultimately is the final fight. I actually really like the captain's fight. I would have loved to see it, like see all four dojos go back and forth. Like it was divided, in my opinion, a little too neatly. Like everyone in Miyagi-Do is fighting Cobra Kai, and then Iron Dragons is fighting, the other dojo off screen almost
yeah.
perfectly. So I would have loved to see like a big madhouse brawl like that. But in the end, I did really like that. So I thought like the end there, that end fight is a great setup for the Sekai Tekai.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's a great episode 6, after a quote unquote mid-season finale. And I love the introduction of new characters. I remember like the first watch through, I was just like, man, it was kind of Yoon lights. Like we didn't get a lot of Yoon, but then I kind of understand it. Like if you kind of split like some of the Swan lines or something and give to Yoon, like you, I don't know if
Mhm,
we get the same, if we feel the same to react the same to what happens with Quan,
mhm,
in the finale. So because I was just like, man, there's Diego and Maria, then you have Vlad and Draga. I'm just
mhm,
like, man,
mhm,
Quan and Tori, but like I don't really, count them really as a pairing. Is because she's still, kind of Miyagi-Do at heart, kind of thing, And so I just I wish there was a little bit more of you, but we get some pretty good stuff with him, especially episode 8. He's got a moment with Tori in episode 7, so some good things, but I could use some more lines, from him.
mhm.
Because I think a part of it is like I think Daniel's just a really great guy, also like so nice. I'm just like, oh man, I just wish he also had some more lines.
Yeah, yeah,
Get some more love for his character
yeah. I
as
get
well
it.
too. Yeah. All right. So, as usual, I solicited some feedback, comments, and such
Mhm.
on social media in our group. And the first one comes from Crystal. She says, I one time had dinner where Tori and Sam had their talk. And I believe she is a native of Georgia. So,
Okay, makes sense.
could come from the area. Yeah. The next one comes from Randy C. He says, all in all, a great introduction to this portion of the series. However, I was a little underwhelmed with the fight sequences in this episode.
Hmm.
Fortunately, they get better in subsequent episodes. Did Axel participate in the high kick challenge? Given how tall he is in comparison to everyone else, I find it hard to believe he would have lost his challenge. I have a theory that Miguel was the one who dealt it. He looked like he was suppressing laughter, and he didn't really say much in response. Um, Great comment, Randy. There. Watch part.
Yeah.
Do you want to go at it first about anything he
You know,
said?
I kept wondering if someone else did the farting.
That's what you're going with first. Okay.
Well, I think Miguel was sleeping with
Hawk.
Hawk actually in that scene. So it would actually make sense then. Um that's a good question.
I also agree, and I also think it's Miguel because though Hawk was also moving, it's kind of where like the camera was facing. Really, it was more above like Miguel when it happened,
Mhm.
and I do think Dimitri was honest in him saying that it was not him. And Robbie, I don't even think was in the frame. Like he's on the other end, which
Yeah,
also,
he's
by
on the
the
far
way, why are like the excess pillows like stuffed on the side of Robbie?
stuff.
Like this, does he fall? Like does Robbie just fall off of beds randomly, maybe? Like right? Did you notice that?
They just have fears of falls. Robbie and Miguel, maybe both, you know.
Usually,
Yeah,
like
I know.
if I was their age, my mind would have been like, I'm putting a pillow in between us. I don't know how you are in the evening or in the morning. I don't want any pokey pokey. I don't want yes, spooning me, thinking I'm
Oh boy, yeah.
Tori or whatever. Like
Yeah,
that's
there's Miguel's next to Rob. There's Miguel's or there's pillows next to Miguel too. There's actually yeah, tons
yeah.
of extra pillows, but
Yeah, I almost yeah I that's where my money's on Miguel, and
mhm.
I'm sure we'll never find out. But I'd like to hear what the rest of you guys think. Maybe I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to know. The Axel thing. Well,
I think Axel wasn't there.
he definitely wasn't there.
Mhm.
Because you know how earlier we were talking about Zara. Zara
Yeah.
was there. Axel definitely was not. I did not meet Patrick Lewis during my visit, and so I think like Tori, Axel just walked off.
Mhm.
Like a lot of other
I mean,
people
they were supposed to
because
be exploring the museum, so that's I mean,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because
Or the
Diego.
aquarium, whatever. Yeah.
Right, the aquarium. Diego and Maria were also not present during the kicking
Mhm.
sequence, but they were at the captain's photograph, obviously. So yeah, that also would have been cool if
Mhm.
there was if you think about that scene in particular, and try to put yourself in my shoes for a second. Like I walk on set, I haven't seen part one. I don't even
Right.
know as I'm walking, like I'm at the aquarium and I'm walking, and before I see anybody. Um, uh I'm already being told about a new character named Quan who they think is going to be a fan favorite. I'm like,
Mhm.
great, a character named Quan. Excited to meet who this person is. And then, but I'm seeing like guys with like Cobra Kai jackets, and I'm just like, what is going on? And so like I have like when I get my moments, I have to kind of guess who might be like a character. That's going to show up on the show, and not like an extra. You know what I mean? So like Vlad, I heard that he had a name, but I still didn't know if he was gonna have anything quote unquote significant. But I did interview Daniel, but yeah, Vlad had some good moments, so
Mhm.
yeah, it was weird, a little intimidating because again, like I don't know who I'm gonna be speaking with, like
Right.
you know, and it literally could have been like somebody who's just like on set for one day just to stand in that scene. I could have been talking to someone like that. I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah, so okay, thank you, Randy, for that one. The next one comes from Mike P. He says, a great introduction to an insane batch of episodes. I questioned how they are going to establish a new Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do rivalry when they didn't even really know each other. Enter Brandon H. Lee and his masterful performance as Quan. He did a phenomenal job as establishing himself as the new Dark Cobra, but in a way that we have not seen from Hawk, Robbie, Kenny, etc. Then, just when we thought we'd find our new quote unquote final boss, the show pulls a major bait and switch by introducing the unstoppable Iron Dragons. Welcome to Barcelona, bitches. So I love that. Thank you, Mike, for that great comment.
Yeah.
Now it's so funny because like it was something that he was just talking about, like Brandon's performance as Quan,
Mhm.
and I just keep like joking with myself, and I'm just like, what if there is a spinoff with like Quan, and they're just gonna give us like stuff like between you know. part one and part two, and it's just going to be like 8 episodes of like a few hours, kind of like obliterated, and it's just going to be
right, yeah.
great stuff with Quan talking shit to a lot of different people for no reason. So I'd watch it, just like how we joked about when we found out uh uh the Okinawa stuff about season three, when like, oh, Ralph went to Okinawa, and all these things. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of us joked like we would watch however long trip to Okinawa of Johnny and Daniel on a plane. Like we watch a whole season of that. Like we joked about that. I
Right.
did the same thing with Quan, just him being Quan, before, the stuff that we're seeing here. But yeah, unless you resurrect him, we're not getting that spinoff.
Mhm.
So
He
uh,
didn't really die, which some people have said, but
well, there was a lot of ketchup that he
yeah.
had in his pocket, I guess, but
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see. The next one comes from Dorian. He
Jello.
says,
He had
yeah,
Jello.
yeah. Well, he's with Kreese. Kreese is with his
Yeah.
sensei. He said,
There you
"Hey,
go.
this worked for me. This worked wonders for me in prison." Oh man, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm so mad if that's what it was. I never thought about that. All right, Dorian says, I've heard a few fans say Quan is reminiscent of a young Chosen. I'd go as far as to say he is the anti-Chosen. Quan doesn't believe in honor or mercy or humility. While a young Chosen had arrogance and a hint of danger, he believed in honor, even if it was misguided. Zara's welcome to Barcelona bitch line reminds me of the OC when Luke says it to Ryan in the pilot. I did not watch that show, and I believe you, Dorian. And question, who is the one with the wind problem, Demetri or Eli? And we answer that neither. Neither.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dorian, for that. Um, I know he says that he disagrees and says that Quan's more the anti-chosen. I think I don't know if he's misreading what is that what people are saying, or I don't know if they're saying like he is or let me see. I've heard a few fans say Quan is reminiscent of a young child. Yeah, like right,
Yeah.
reminiscent. Like, but he says I'd go as far as to say as he's the anti, but
Hmm.
because even John Hurwitz told me that like, oh, Quan is unlike anybody we've written before. He's kind of like young chosen. That's literally what John told me.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that? The comparison to Chosen?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? Like that's what Quan well, I think that was intentional from when they did it. Like Quan was like a young chosen, aggressive, using a knife, um, all that stuff. So I don't know. I don't think it's yeah, I think that's what they intended. There's definitely differences between them.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think
Differences, but
there's yeah,
a lot of the
pretty
same colors.
similar.
So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot. Again, I keep teasing some of these upcoming episodes. Like episode 8 is where you're gonna get. At least for me, I saw a lot of those similarities. Like, oh,
Hmm.
that's trying to get two chosen right there in the alley,
Yeah.
with the
Right.
drunk cobra. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I already said that. Thank you, Dorian, for that feedback. And let's see. The next one comes from Anne. She says, I found it weird that Kreese is just walking around a cocktail reception with a knife. Like, I get there are vendors, they're selling weapons, but still, I agree. I think we talked about that, It's just kind of like, no one gonna say anything. I mean, this gentleman, like, is like, hey, that's a
I
pretty
don't
nice
know.
knife, but
It's not that weird, I guess.
yeah, maybe it's just like, yeah. Well, the other thing is people are probably like, who's gonna walk around with a knife? Like, do we really need to
And I
police
think
people and say
like he
like no
had the
weapons?
knife in his like inner pocket, and he only pulled it out. Like he wasn't like walking around brandishing the knife, like in front of people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, he's like standing there, like
yeah,
from a distance, staring down
right,
Johnny, and Johnny looks
right.
over and he lifts up his jacket. It's like, you see this knife? Like this could
Yeah,
be. He does the hand motion where he's like one finger across the neck.
no.
Oh man. Also, she continues. Also, anyone else find it A weird choice to only have one Asian team. Iron Dragons from Hong Kong was quote unquote international, and I guess there were a few Asian faces in their team, but Japan was only there as a flag. I know they can't possibly give screen time to all 16 teams, but I'm surprised a team from Japan wasn't more prominent in the Sekai Tekai. Yeah, that was that's really interesting. I wish that we
I
had,
think they didn't want to do Japan because it's too close to Okinawa. So I
yeah.
think like if because you're just opening yourself up to like people going, well, why isn't like Chosen's dojo from Okinawa in representing Japan or something?
Yeah, and like I wish that maybe it's in the poster or other footages, and I can go in and look better, look at it a little bit better. But yeah, most of them are kind of like quote unquote international. Yeah, I get what she's kind of asking, but like I was even questioning something like a Thailand. Alex Wong, her husband, is on the Thailand team, but his
Mhm.
character's name is Phan, Phan, and that's a Vietnamese surname. And so I'm like, so he's a Vietnamese character on the Thailand team, which he in reality is actually Thai.
I don't
So
know. I
yeah,
yeah
and he doesn't even fight like Muay Thai or anything. So I thought that was
yeah.
interesting. Oh, I mean, I know Muay Thai is Muay Thai and not karate. So yeah, I think they just kind of wanted most of them to possibly be a little bit more nondescript. Just yeah, international. Like it's the international tournament, so the
Mhm.
teams are also international. They kind of possibly globetrot and find teams that like to compete in
Mhm.
these type of tournaments, I suppose. Um, she continues again. I did enjoy this batch of episodes though. I like the mature way the kids tried to deal with Tori's quote unquote betrayal. Devin
Better
offering that the
than
team,
Johnny and Daniel.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Devin offering that the team was worried about Tori, and Tori and Sam's conversation continued the growth they showed in episode three, from episode three. Correct. Yeah, we talked about that. I also like the characters they introduced, especially Lewis Tan. And she has a
Mhm.
smirking emoji. Not sure if I've seen and used one before like that. Uh, she's a fan of Lewis Tan, it sounds like. And I appreciated that Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do got their butts kicked at the end of the episode, as it was more interesting and realistic to see their struggle as their first time on this world stage. I
Right.
completely agree. And again,
Mhm.
I'm sure that's, by design, based off
Right.
of like what we got of part one. Before I continue, she has one more comment here. But Lewis Tan, I don't know if I asked you this, but did you know him before this Cobra Kai appearance?
No.
No. Um, I knew him from Mortal Kombat. He played
Mhm.
the main character. I think that was the first time I seen him.
Yeah, I
And
saw people
then
mention that in comments, but
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, and then I saw him in a few episodes of I think it's called. And I feel like I mentioned this to you, or at least my buddy Phil. But Wu Assassins, I was
Mhm.
was a show he was on, but that was pretty much it. And then I would go on and see him like like screenshots and in things
Mhm.
like Deadpool 2 and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I was familiar with him, but let's see, she ends it with my favorite moment was Amanda FaceTiming Daniel and being witness to the joyful chaos that is La Russo. This is my new favorite show. Indeed, Amanda. Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne, for that. A really great comment there. And the last one comes from Ron. He says, good placement of the Thompson Twins song Hold Me Now during the
Mhm.
montage when everyone is trying to sleep but is too troubled by thoughts of Kumiko, thoughts of Tori, Chosen snoring, or Eli or Dimitri farting. So there you go, Rod, again, going back to like Eli and Dimitri, just like
Mhm.
what was that Dorian. So yeah, maybe we need to discuss. You know, he continues, that song came out the same year as the original Karate Kid movie. It wasn't in the movie, but it's a nice callback to that era. I listened to it on repeat on Apple Music after seeing this episode. It's a great song. So
Mhm.
again, I have it in my playlist. So thank you everybody who left us
Mhm.
feedback for this episode. Really quite enjoyed it. Watch party, anything that people need to look out for that you are working on?
Yes, I will get stuff coming for the part three drop we got. I mean, I did a stream, but I haven't had anything else. And I want to do a lot more some part three theories, maybe, wrapping up the Miyagi storyline. I want to get a Miyagi video and some maybe other appearances that haven't happened yet. And then maybe a little more like part two analysis with how it'll play into part three.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that for sure. I got a couple interviews scheduled, two more that I'm scheduling, and I'm not sure how much harder I'm gonna try to push for like anything new. At this point, I'm just kind of circling back to some of these people I've been in talks with, but we have 40 some odd days left until part three. So we definitely gotta try to finish up part two before three comes out in February, mid-February. So that's really all I got going. We hope to get out episode seven much sooner, now that December is pretty much behind us here. So some time coming up. And I guess that's it. I don't think there's any other really rumblings in the fandom of anything really to look out for until we get a trailer, probably like mid-January, something like that. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's gonna do it. So yep, until the next episode, I'll come to a steak. What kind of place is this?